Webster Conservation Commission meeting of Monday, March 15th, 2021. I have just about 5:40 on this Monday, and I'm going to call this meeting to order. So welcome, everyone. If you are not a commissioner, I do ask that you please remain muted. That way we can cut down on the background noise until we call upon you for your particular project. I'm going to read an excerpt of governor's rules as of right now for open meeting law. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 superseding order concerning provisions of the open meeting law, GLC 30A, section 18, and the governor's March 15, 2020 order concerning imposition on strict limitations of the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting will be conducted via this platform of Zoom. So, thank you so much, everyone. First item is meeting minutes for approval. We do not have any at this time, so we will move beyond that into our RDAs, also known as requests for determination of applicability. So the first item up here on our agenda is 6 South Point Road. And before we get to 6 South Point Road, I would like Dan, our board clerk, to give an introduction on the RDA process.
Okay. In accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, as amended, the Wetlands Protection Act, this public meeting will address 3 RDAs and 2 NOIs to determine whether the project involved are subject to the Protection Act.
Great, thank you, Dan. So do we have Pam and Patricia of 6 South Point Road, sorry.
Yes.
Okay, all right, so we were at your property on Saturday, very breezy day, but a nice day out. And I'm just going to cover a few of the points here of what we looked at, what we saw, and then we can get into the project. And we still have Dakota available, right?
Yep, I'm here.
All right, you may want to stay unmuted until, so you may answer some questions or.
Okay.
All right, so your filing is for construction of a deck that will extend out over what we observe to be a fairly unstable embankment after you have had trees removed from a few years ago. We noticed that on that side of the property where the deck is, the vegetation's been cleared. You do have some sliding of the embankment there, as well as up near your patio. There's some sliding of the landscape there as well. So with this deck, which is 10 by 16, you're planning on bracing this with cables that will be connected to the dwelling, as well as sonotubes to be dug by hand. We also, you're planning on putting in a retaining wall, which will definitely help with stability of that slope there. And that retaining wall will be railroad ties. We're looking at a turbidity curtain down at the water to be installed. Phasing of the project, we'd like to cover that so don't have too much destruction all at once and risk during imminent weather for that entire slope to slide. I did discuss with, I believe it was Pat, some vegetation. Actually, both Pat and Pam, we talked about inserting some vegetation in various areas of the property to help with erosion. On the opposite side of the house, there was appears that there is a tree or two that was removed, and there's a little bit of erosion on that side as well. So, all right. So, commissioners, let's first talk about this deck. And if you can talk about the installation of the deck, Dakota, that would be great, so we can map how this area is going to be redone and stabilized.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay.
we can hear you.
Yeah, so I do want to correct, the deck is 16 by 16 is the total size of the deck. I think you said 10 by 16 at first.
Okay.
Um,
All right, so this is there's going to be, there's 2 steps involved here. Okay, so yeah, it is 16 by 16 in total surface.
yeah, total would be 16, 16 is the overall. Like you said, we're gonna do the cable ties to the foundation of the home.
Yeah.
Those are gonna be thick cables, which will be lagged to the start of the deck. Underground, they won't be exposed cables. They will be underground. The sonotubes are gonna be the big 12-inch sonotubes, like you said, hand dug, 4 feet deep. And the wall should be average. I calculated about 25 feet long, no higher than, and that will be back to it will have filter fabric behind it, also with 3/4 stone for drainage.
Now, under each of the deck platforms, what are you planning on putting? Are you going to put 3/4 inch stone underneath the actual deck itself?
We can. I mean, the initial plan on the wall was to backfill with 3/4 stone, just
Okay.
for also for drainage purposes.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have our gutters tie into a PVC drainage system, which will come out on the face of the wall, on the outside of the wall.
Okay.
So all the water should be down water level, lake level, I should say.
Okay.
No, they said they wouldn't have it.
So you're going to have to take up some of the patio stones in order to tie this, excuse me, tie these cables into the dwelling itself?
Yes, yeah, just one course, it's a brick coursing, so we'll probably only have to take out one course and just lightly trench down, also by hand. No machinery involved. Yeah, not deep though, probably 6 to 8 inches at most.
Okay. And there was significant erosion that sort of formed its own little swale right along the steps of the that go down to the dock. Yeah, right in there.
Yes.
So you're about where this is right now at this third post on the steps. This is about where the retaining wall is going to come up. You're planning on putting the retaining wall right up against this here?
Yeah, the initial plan was only the width of the deck, which would be 16 feet. And then as we noticed, there was more erosion, like you said, closer to the stairs. So rather than the 16 feet, we're going to add another 9 feet. So total, yeah, I mean, we're going to span the whole frontage of the property on that side of the stairs with the wall to retain everything as opposed to just the section.
Okay.
And I had a question. I'm sorry to interrupt, but it looked like a platform had been dug out here, like it's about halfway down the slope where that line is. Is that where you were intending the wall to go?
No, the wall's actually going to be further out from that. That's just land. Not really sure on that. But that's, I mean, we'll work off that platform, but the wall's actually further out. I don't know how much further out from that plateau it is, but it is, I would say, probably 6 to 8 feet past that is where the wall's actually going to be.
So maybe on this level or something along here?
Let me see. I can't see
Oh,
what
you
got.
can't see. Okay.
Oh, here we go.
So what's that gonna be that's near the water before the wall?
About,
It'll be a few feet of hillside below the wall.
yeah,
I see the picture we're looking at now.
Yeah, so just how many feet away from the water, I guess, would be a question. I guess kind of up slanted feet.
Yeah, the approximate, I guesstimated a little bit on that. The distance from the water to the wall should be 12 to 13 feet away from. So we're staying back pretty
Okay.
far from the actual water line. The water's a little high right now, so I couldn't really get an exact. You know, so when it's back down, it'll probably be even more than that away from the water. Probably 15, 16 feet away from the water. So.
okay. So in regards to this main, this is, I mean, obviously the main attraction of what the filing is for. But with this particular project, it's going to, in essence, you know, sort of, it's gonna take out some of this hillside. It's going to level out. You're gonna have a wall in here. It's gonna obviously develop the hillside, but this is probably, you know, I mean, probably one of the better solutions if you're looking to put a deck on in the back here for trying to, you know, develop and stop the erosion here. But as far as the this is as far as this is concerned, what is the first, is it like, did you put together sort of the phases that you're planning on doing this in?
Yes. First initial plan would be to construct the wall, which we're gonna do in sections, like we said
Okay.
on Saturday. And we'll take pictures as we go also. Just so like you said, if we get a bad rainstorm or, you know, we don't want anything to wash out. We don't want to leave it exposed and dug out and not, we want to put the wall in that we dig out that day. So we're gonna build the wall first, and I actually checked that on the wall. Every probably 6 feet behind the wall, we're gonna have timber tie-ins that go into the hillside also, which is gonna prevent the wall from falling down, you know.
Yeah.
So that was, yeah, the first step would definitely be, let's put the wall in, get the ground stable and nothing coming down into the water.
What's the wall gonna be made of? Stone, cement?
It's a 6x6 timber, pressure treated timber,
Okay.
clean timber. No, they're not railroad ties. They're pressure treated timber, so they don't have the asphalt in them. They're just clean pressure treated timber, which will be lagged together with 10-inch screws.
Okay.
To stabilize that slope that's along the stairs, is that gonna be stone?
We can add stone if we have to. At the top of the hill, we're going to put river rock, also for a drainage and stability. So if we have to add some below the wall, we can also do that. Yes.
Well, I guess what I'm asking is, are you saying you're gonna have river rock going from the existing patio down along the side of the stairs? Is that your plan?
No. Up at the top, there's a paver patio, and there's just it's almost like a little garden bed that we're gonna put river rock in. We weren't initially planning on putting any stone down by the water. We're actually trying to stay away from the water as much as possible with the project.
I'm not-
But
not
if we have to. I'm
I
sorry.
think, I think the
I'm not
point here
sure
is
that we're
that,
I'm
I
not
think
sure
the
that
point
we're-
here is that the erosion right alongside the stairs, you need to do something to stabilize that section
Okay.
between the stairs and the new deck.
Yeah, that's pretty much kind of that concern,
Right.
Dakota. So
Okay.
how can we,
That section, yeah.
Down, you guys are saying closer to the water, right? Beyond the wall?
no, this is
No.
right beside the stairs going down where it's kind of formed sort of a gully, kind of its
Yeah.
way up.
Okay.
He had talked about, Chad had talked about putting stone down along the edge of the stairs to pretty it up as well as to contain the drainage. So we had talked about that initially in the project.
Okay.
And are we concerned about erosion underneath that deck?
Well, that's what I was asking about earlier was, you're probably gonna need to put a bit of stone underneath the deck. A few inches at least in order to let the water get in there and percolate through, but
Okay. Well, we're gonna be backfilling the wall with 3/4 stone, so we can always bring it up a little under the deck too.
and the
There's,
thing is under the deck too, keep any growth of weeds and things of that nature down.
put fabric down maybe.
I would probably consider a permeable fabric.
Okay.
And along the stairs, if you're gonna put river rock travels pretty easily. So I'm a little concerned about it traveling.
Okay, maybe we'll do a heavier trap rock down along the bottom.
You could always decide to go green and put in some greenery to prevent that sort of thing. Maybe almost like a quasi rain garden where you have stone and some junipers or something green.
I would
I can
probably
do that.
go the green method on that, and work in some, probably some larger stone, like, maybe,
Like a rock garden as opposed
Yeah.
to river rock gully.
yeah,
Okay.
The river walk is supposed to be over closer to, the stairs you walk down to get to the property to look at it. That's when the original river walk was. River stone. I was, when we talked on Saturday, was gonna be the same rock. I'm not sure what you call it, but whatever you suggest. we put there. I can do plantings down the length of those stairs happily.
I think, and we talked about that on Saturday was, the need for, beginning to pop in green, because once you get that, and I mean, these don't need to be bushes or anything like that.
Yeah, no,
It's nice to have, those bushes, but given the slope here, it is so steep.
mhm,
If you get that lower vegetation to the ground,
mhm.
it will take hold and kind of travel its way down. And like I had mentioned, the junipers, the ground junipers, because they will sort of form almost a green carpet on its way down.
Like a juniper, right? Like,
Yeah. Some call it creeping juniper, ground juniper, but it's almost like a green sort of carpet. And you
Mhm.
I prop in like maybe one every probably 3 feet, maybe a little bit further apart. And then, you're gonna need to work in some larger stones there. So when the water comes down, it can hit a stone and it slows the velocity of the water down. That's the art with this project is slowing the velocity of the water down. So do what it's doing now, which is whipping apart the hillside.
yeah, yeah. That would be pretty too.
So that's something that's going to need to be done in there. As far as where the exit is for the water on this hillside, I'm thinking that because obviously what goes in the ground needs to pop out somewhere, and you're going to have that. You're looking at burying the the pipe here. I'm gonna think that you may need to do some larger rock at the end of it, almost as sort of an apron. You know what
Okay,
I'm talking about? Because when that water comes out of there, because that pipe is taking so much water off of the property that you get these storms that are dropping an immense amount of precipitation in one, half hour, 45 minutes, an hour. It's going to be basically shooting the water out of there, and you really kind of want to have something to catch water at the end of it, or desynchronize that water energy.
okay.
Like
We briefly discussed that Saturday when we were there, and I think the idea we left with was that drainage line would go through the wall and deliver the water on the far side of the wall toward the water line. And that would just need probably some kind of splash pad there, combination of trap rock and riprap to accomplish the same thing.
Yeah,
We
that's
can do that.
that's what I'm talking about as far as a stone apron, Dan. At the end, the water will come out and it'll kind of the rock there, and it'll slow the water down. But the trick is using you're gonna have to use bulky rock.
Okay,
Otherwise-
consider it done. We can do that. That works.
Okay, so then once you've got the wall in place, you start working your way up the embankment and hopefully get the deck in within a day or so?
Yeah, I mean the framing's gonna take a day anyways,
Yeah,
but we gotta do it in steps. The sonotubes will have to be poured and obviously dry.
yeah,
And then the framing's usually day to 2 days, not too excessive.
Okay.
So, yeah, shouldn't be bad. And like you said, we'll put stone throughout the bottom of the deck, also filter fabric.
okay,
And we can definitely do the apron down by the water. That makes sense.
yeah.
And I guess everywhere else we'll cover in plants.
Yeah, I would pop in some hardy, some good plants, and the thing too, Pam and Pat, it's black-eyed Susans. I'm sure you know black-eyed Susans. Those things love hillsides. And they actually love water. You find them. Yeah, you find them in a lot of in what they call rain gardens.
Mhm,
So, and they'll spread
mhm.
around, and you'll have some. It won't just be greenery and rock. You can
Be flowers and
have a nice vegetated slope there.
somebody I talked to, one of the ladies suggested some daylilies also.
Yep, daylilies are great. Yeah, and they multiply, and they
Yep,
long from the multiply.
And they look natural.
yeah.
So, and it won't block your beautiful view there. All right, so now what is the deck going to be made of? Are we doing Trex, or are you doing pressure treated wood?
The framing is pressure treated. The
Okay.
posts are pressure treated. The decking is going to be Trex. Yes.
Okay, all right, so you're doing Trex. Just so you know, organic material that you've got, where it is probably up on I know you've got all that stuff stacked up in the driveway there. You're gonna want to use a vacuum saw, and you're gonna want to cut everything there. You can't cut it on the resource side.
Okay. Yeah, we have HEPA vacs that attach to all of our equipment.
Okay, great.
Yep.
All right, so now the next thing, so we've got the decking, we've got the stairs. Railings, what kind of railings are you doing?
Also, they're also a Trex product, just PVC railings.
Okay,
Everything screws, no nails, not one nail on the job.
I'm not gonna, I mean, I'm thinking weight wise for for that deck, and I'm thinking of this hillside. This is my this is my recommendation. And it may save some money. Thought of doing the cabling looking deck. Railings rather. And when you
Yeah.
sit on the deck, it'll be able to maximize your view. It's you know what I'm talking about. It looks a little more modern, industrial. And
Yeah, we do them, Patty and Pam, like the regular black PVC. The PVC we're using, it is light duty, but yeah.
I saw the nose turn up on that one, so.
Yeah, no, everyone's got their preferences. and
Sorry.
No,
they're in charge at the end of the day, so,
I'm thinking of the hillside and I'm thinking of the weight, so.
yeah.
I wanted
Yeah.
it to look a lot like the original deck that's there, so I wanted it to kind of
It's
flow.
your project, that's fine. I was just thinking, of, people on it but then again, the amount of weight of the additional wood, if you're doing PVC, it's not that heavy.
Yeah, it's a light PVC. There's no
Okay.
metal to it or anything either. So yeah, it might be about the same at the end of the day,
Okay.
So.
So after the decking, is done, anything, am I missing anything? As far as the project's concerned?
Nope, we get the drainage, plants, nope,
The wall, the sonotubes,
the wall, sonotubes.
I'm not taking $700 off the table.
before, you begin the project, you're gonna have to obviously meet up with Mary, for a site, pre-construction site visit,
Okay,
okay?
Yep.
And it will be in the order of conditions.
Hey, Joey, this is, I know last meeting guys had talked about having them file an NOI. This is still an RDA. You might want to consider, just consider whether this is going to be an RDA or whether it's an NOI.
Well, this is up to the board. Typically, when there's this much earth moving going on, at the end, the filing is an NOI. So, commissioners, what are we thinking about with this one?
So yeah, I lean more toward the NOI because we have an opportunity to set the conditions a little
Yeah.
more stringently.
I agree.
I agree.
Okay. All right. So then we need to, Mary can assist you, Pam and Pat, with converting this over to an NOI filing. And that's a notice of intent. And Mary, we don't have a DEP number with this anyway right now, so we can't.
Yeah, well, what you can do, Joey, is you guys need to issue a positive determination and then they'll file for the NOI.
Okay. All right, so folks, do we have any other, aside from,
I do.
Do,
This is something we discussed there, sadly. Two things about the wall. One is that they're just going to create a shelf to stack those timbers on. And I mentioned that, given the steepness of the slope, that bottom of that wall needs to be anchored down somehow, maybe some driven re-rod or rebar rather, something to hold that, make sure that the bottom of the wall stays where they put it. And two, also, I mentioned the height of the wall above the surface of the soil. And again, given, we'd like to see 3 to 6 inches, given the steepness of the slope, I think being on the high end of that would be a good idea.
yeah,
okay. Yeah, I'm sorry, I did miss it too. We are gonna put rebar through the bottom course of the wall. I forgot to mention that. We will though.
Good.
okay. So we know that that is gonna be, there. So that'll be anchored down, and then, of course, I would probably lean more towards the 6-inch lip on that to catch anything that may, post-development, if we happen to have some sort of, a little bit of a slip on that
Okay,
for some reason. You know, that's the reason why we had that standard in place.
I only mention it because given the steepness of the slope, on your sketch there, it says 3-foot tall wall. You may find you need to go another course higher with the timbers in order to achieve the right height.
yes, sir. We can do that too. I guess as we start building, if it looks like it, you know, calculates out where we need to go higher, we can do that also. Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I also have another one. Something
Yep, go
else.
ahead, Michelle.
So I think the plan is to start the wall 12 feet away from the shore. But I believe this property has a great deal of erosion that occurs in that 12 feet as well. So I don't know what the plan, I mean, I've seen some of the pictures. I don't know if there's anything to hold that bottom 12 feet.
Well, that's where we're going to put the plants and also the apron for the gutter, the stone apron, which we can make a little bit wider also. So I think between the stone and the junipers or whichever plants they decide on, that should retain the lower, and it's not as steep at the bottom there. So I think that should retain it if we line the hillside with the plants.
The other thing too is, Dakota, have you, I would imagine that you're with leveling the hills, the slope out and coming down to 2 steps, you're gonna have material that's gonna be coming out of here, correct?
I don't think we're gonna take much material out of there. No, I don't see it. I really don't see it. But you might be right until we start, you know, setting our base. I don't know for sure. I don't think so though.
Okay. Michelle, looking from the top there, yeah, there is an erosion problem down near the shoreline.
Yep.
But I looked into the water and the only spot I saw anything kind of entering the lake was right near the steps.
So Joey, when I went and took the pictures from the ice, it looks
Okay.
almost like it's straight up from the water and that's all raw.
Okay.
To the right, if you're looking at the house from the water, it's to the right of the stairs.
Yeah.
And that's gotta fall within that 12 feet. They even have a wattle right now at the bottom.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think the plants, I mean, you guys know better than I do on the plants, but I think if we line that lower 12 feet with, you know, do the whole frontage, the whole 25-foot frontage of plants beyond the wall on the water side, I think would work
I'm
to retain the.
wondering if you should look into some of the living wall things. They make something that looks like a living wall. It's sort of like a wattle that you connect to the dirt and it grows seeds over time.
Actually, yeah, they do it. They use it often in riverbed, not riverbed, but river restoration, Dakota.
Okay.
It's a what they call a core, a CIR.
Hold on, I'm gonna write that down. Hold on.
Yeah, and if
What-
you go
what-
to, yeah, it's if you look at go to Filtrex. Are you familiar with Filtrex?
I am not, but I will do that.
All right, if you look up Filtrex and then punch in living wall,
Okay.
they have these they're cores that have seeds in them, and you basically you take the core. It's just like a what you've got in there now, a wattle, and you just basically anchor it in, and it's basically a compost sock that it starts to decompose and it stays there. And what it does is it basically it revegetates that area that is anchored in, and it's a quick revegetation, and it helps to stabilize things really quickly.
Okay. And you would suggest that at the
I
bottom?
would, yeah,
the
I would
hillside?
look at where right now you'll probably be able to look at where the high water mark is right now. And I
Yeah.
would, for one, just maybe a few feet up But that's
Okay.
gonna need to, you're probably gonna have to, looking at it here, you're gonna have to probably smooth, I hate to say kind of rake it out, but it's gonna probably need to be smoothed out just a little bit there.
Right.
And that's why I was wondering if you were looking to a few feet up from the mean high water mark. If you were right in front of where you were starting the retainer wall, if you were gonna maybe take down the slope a little bit so that it's not so angular towards at the water.
I think we're gonna have to. Yeah. Once we start hand digging, it might. I see what you're saying right there on the picture. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think one or two of those and I believe a couple other places you may be able to get them from. Take a look at over on Route 20 in Oxford. There is Hydroseed Technologies.
Okay.
I believe he may sell them. The guy that owns it is Bob. He's mainly in Florida, but he's got a good team up here. I know some folks in other communities have had success with him. And then there's also New England Wetland Plants. And then Groundscapes Express. Another one that sells those sort of logs. But if you want to visualize it, a great site to go to is Filtrex.
Okay. I wrote everything down, so
Filtrex.
we'll do some homework on that.
Yeah, Filtrex Living Wall and look at it. And I mean, you really honestly could do almost that entire hillside with these, and it actually looks really cool.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. An alternative to hardscape.
Right.
So between now and our next meeting, because we can't close this out now anyway, I would research that and we can sort of loop around and close up any questions or additional items at the next meeting.
Joey, no, you need to issue a positive determination and then
Yep.
we'll open an NOI. So we have to close it tonight.
Okay.
One more thing.
Yeah. Any other commissioners with questions?
One more thing. Is chapter 1 involved here? Chapter 91 rather.
Yeah, with the project, yeah, we forgot to ask, did Pam and Pat, have you licensed your dock with the state?
We have no idea who was supposed
Okay, you would know on your deed?
There's no chapter 91 on their property.
Okay,
I looked it up
all right.
earlier.
So with this, we'll add it to your filing, and you basically have to go to docks on Great Ponds and Webster's a Great Pond. Under state law, all the docks need to be registered
What the fuck?
in Massachusetts. And if you go to chapter 91, Mass DEP/chapter 91, you're going to want to look at the simplified form. It's not necessarily simplified.
Uh-oh.
We can help. It's the state. So it's 75. It's a $75 fee, and it's like a 15 to 30 year from the state.
Okay. I didn't know you were supposed to do that. I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's okay. It's actually it's one of those regulations that it tends to get missed often.
Yeah, the information to file the application is on our website, the town website for the conservation.
Okay.
All right. So, any other questions, commissioners?
I'm good.
Okay. All right. So we're going to need to issue a determination on this property, a positive determination on this property, and then at the next meeting of Monday, April 5th. So can I get a motion?
I make a motion to find a negative determination for the RDA on 6 South Shore Road.
Wait,
How about a positive?
Oh, hold on, pause it again.
That's your first speaker? Yes, is this at?
I'm gonna, Steve Bolsowitz, mute. All right,
Really?
Dan, it needs to be a positive because we're converting them over
Right.
to an NOI.
Then I change my motion to finding a positive determination
Okay,
on this RDA for 6 South Point Road.
I
okay,
second. I second.
okay. So Pam and Pat and Dakota, that's basically so we can close out the RDA. And then we can move you over to the NOI process and permit your project at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. When was the next meeting? April?
It's April 5th.
2 weeks.
Yep,
You know what? I can't promise you guys the next meeting because you would have to get all your application materials turned in. I believe the deadline is like tomorrow or Wednesday. Okay, so the last ditch cutoff would be Thursday at 11, last ditch.
And
So
what do
it is a bit of a deal. So definitely get started on that right away.
and what would you need for that to happen?
What do
Um,
we need to do? What is it? I don't even understand what an NOI is, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I don't think we should take maybe the time during the meeting, but give us a call at the office or look on our website. There's a very good description of the process. Okay.
It's called notice of intent. If you look up that, it'll
Notice
explain
of
it.
intent. Do I have to
Notice of intent, yeah.
do I have to from the town hall or?
All right. Any other, we're all set, right? So Pam and Pat, Dakota, contact the office with questions on getting filing done. And like Mary said, Thursday AM would be the cutoff on that for the next meeting. Otherwise, you'll have to go on the one towards the middle end of April.
And what, okay, so end of April.
Yeah, because there's so much involved in the project, we have to move it to what they call is notice of intent. And it's already determined that you're in a wetland area, but we need to be able to put conditions on this project. And under the RDA process in Mass, you can't necessarily put legal conditions on a project. And that is basically the steps and how you need to follow the project. Okay?
Okay,
This Pam, there's a lot there. It's the wall, it's the drainage, it's the
Yeah, it's
vegetation. There's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, it's more involved. So,
Yeah.
But we'll get you through it. We'll help you out. And
Okay.
I don't
Alright.
think we ever did the vote, right? We had,
No, I didn't do the vote.
yeah. All right, so did we have a second? I don't remember.
I did.
That was
I'm
Robin.
seconding it, yeah.
Okay. All right, Michelle Cirillo,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Duto,
Yes,
Mr. Brown,
Abstain because I started after the meeting.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Dr. Jewel,
Yes,
Mr. Wigglesworth.
yes. Okay, so Pat and Pam and Dakota, we will talk to you very soon.
all right,
Okay,
guys, have a good day. Thank you.
thank you.
Stay
Thank you
safe.
very
All
much.
right. Okay, next up, 5 Evergreen Drive, looking for Judy Conkle-Deary. Do we have Judith with us?
Yes, I'm here. I'm trying to get my video going. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
But okay, I'm sorry about that. But you can
Okay.
hear me at least. I apologize.
Yes, yes, we've got photographs of what you're looking to do.
Okay,
Got tree removal going on that you'd like to get done?
yes, yes.
Okay. So Mary will pop up the photographs. As she's doing that, there are a number of trees that are have pretty much seen their lifespan and are very close to the dwelling. And looking to kind of thin out the thick vegetation here that's around the home. So so these look like 2 oaks.
I think they were
To the house,
Pines.
to the house corner there.
pines. And Judy,
Okay.
this large oak is staying, right?
Yes, that's going to stay because that's leaning actually the other way. It's not towards my
Exactly.
home. Mhm.
Okay.
And there were only 2 pines here, even though there's a third here, or was that a double? I can't remember.
I don't know. I honestly, it might,
Maybe I have
Actually,
the,
looks like two, Mary.
yeah, I think it was 2 trees, so it's only
Yeah.
2 here that are going.
Okay.
It's this one and that one. This
Mhm.
is the large oak staying,
A nice old oak.
yeah.
Mm.
And were you gonna take this little sapling? I noticed it was marked. It's not a huge deal, it's small.
Yeah, I think she just said we're just gonna tidy that all up because I don't know. If it
Yeah.
had intentions, I don't know, but yeah,
It's like a weed growing in your nice shrubberies.
that's what I think it is.
Yeah. Okay, and these are, you can just barely see the wall of the house here. Pine, oak, fairly close to the house. And the oak is, the bottom of the oak is damaged.
Yeah, I can see that big hole.
Yeah. And then I tried to, this is the top stem I tried to grab, although it's kind of hard to tell. Here's the oak. Here's the pine, and you can see the house there.
Okay.
And then this is looking, this is Sucker Brook back here.
Yeah.
And just kind of, you're kind of standing in the backyard looking towards the brook.
Okay.
And that's just looking, I think, off their property, but just past those pines and oaks we were just looking at, you can see it's all woods. So they have a very wooded area. And then these are behind the house. Maple, pine, and white oak. Or oak, I'm not sure if it was a white oak. And then the oak is the only one that I thought maybe wasn't as close to the others, but it may be still leaning in that direction of the house. You can see here's the house.
Okay.
Yeah, that oak was, what got me going on all this was this winter being so dry. And when the snow came, 2 huge limbs came down on the back of the house. That part you see that's protruding out there. We had 2 big limbs come down and it got me very nervous. Yeah, and that's when I start looking also. I mean, some of the trees on the side you could see were kind of over the roof. Some of the branches were coming over, but they're all just too close to the home. And I'm getting a little nervous with the trees breaking. Yeah, it's.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And then this is just those trees from below, kind of looking towards the house, same trees.
Okay.
And again, same grouping. I think this one stays though. There's one here that stays.
So,
Given the
above
amount of
where we are,
given the amount of vegetation that is adjacent, you're going to see all those trees start to begin to advance. So,
Mhm.
you know, it is pretty thickly wooded there.
Mary, I think you said 70 feet pretty much from the closest tree to the water.
Yeah, if that's what I said, that's what it approximately was. Yep. And here's the kind of the sketch that she had submitted showing the trees. This is the first group we looked at and the ones in back. And then she submitted a planting plan.
I love planting plans.
I know. And so, Judy, why don't you tell us about your planting plan? I didn't look at it very carefully.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm thinking I'd like to put some birch trees, since I have to replace them. I was thinking some birch trees over by the other side of the home. I don't really want to put anything kind of where it is. I was thinking I could put a fruit tree in the back. That would not get too big. It should get sunshine now, because if those big trees are gone, that should get some nice sun and maybe some blueberry bushes back there. Again, I don't want to put anything too close to the house that's going to get huge again. So, and there are already some ferns back there, so I'm thinking I can just add some more ferns. I don't know, I'm thinking, I don't know, I didn't really think this all through, but if I were to replace it, it sounds like that's what I need to do. I'm thinking right in the back where those trees are, put fruit trees and blueberry bushes.
Yeah.
And then also on the side of the home, not the direct side, the other side, I'm sorry, the other side. Yeah, but towards the front by that oak tree, possibly, I have to see how much sunlight I'm gonna get there, but some more, a fruit tree and some more bushes, some blueberry bushes. And then on the other side of my home, just to add to things, I'd like some blueberry bushes. I love we have a bunch. I don't know if you saw them, Mary, when you came here. We have a bunch of blueberries and we attract animals and yeah, I just think some more fruit trees. Again, things that don't get too big. I don't want to be coming to the committee again in 30 years saying I need to cut more trees. So,
Yeah,
you know, something that would stay small around the home that's manageable. And yeah.
that sounds good. Commission? I wouldn't necessarily buy any ferns.
Yeah, probably. Well,
because, and also remember ferns like shade and they like it damp. So
mhm.
if you get a lot of sun and you plant them in the sun, you're gonna probably you'll end up wasting some money.
Yeah. I was just thinking of things that,
Oh, yeah.
you know, natural, and I'm like, oh, ferns are pretty. They're nice. You mentioned black eye Susans to the other people in front of me. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I could add some black eye Susan. No, it's not
Yeah.
a bush, but
Add some color. Yeah.
right,
Day lilies will work.
daylilies. Mhm.
Costa.
Okay.
And Judy, I'd just like to say, I think you have 3 fruit trees here and 3 fruit trees. They don't have to go in the same spot. You could put them over here if that's a better place to grow your fruit trees. I think,
Okay.
whatever the commission feels.
Yeah, because as I put in your note, Mary, it's wherever I can dig a hole. That would be the problem.
Yeah, and I think that'll be the important thing is wherever you can. Now, just one last thing before we move to a vote, Judy.
Mhm.
Are you pulling the stumps out, having them ground down, or just stumping it, just leaving the stumps?
I'm just leaving the stumps. There's nothing, no, I'm just gonna leave the stumps. Unless it's a problem, but I think they're gonna go down as much as they can, but just leave the stumps. Yeah, I'm not removing anything. It's too much work.
Yep.
And it's just a backyard, side yard, and it's not, you know.
Yeah.
It's really for safety. They're getting big. Like I said, they're coming over the house. I had to replace some wood on my porch in the back because it's too shaded and ants were getting in from the trees. It needs to be, yeah, I need some sunshine back there plus some safety. I'm just getting a little nervous as I see branches cracking. And now all the pines I'm seeing after this last windstorm, not so much in my yard, but down the road, there was
Yeah,
some pines that are breaking and it just
We're
gets.
seeing a lot of wind lately.
Yes.
Storms in the last year.
Yeah. Gets me a little nervous when we're all in the home here and I don't need anything falling on my house.
All right, so if there isn't any discussion from the board, can we put a motion forward for 5 Evergreen Drive, the removal of trees and replanting plan? Everyone's eating dinner.
Yeah.
I'll make the motion for
right.
negative, as for determination of applicability for 5 Evergreen Drive for the removal of trees and the new plants being added to the property.
A second.
Okay. Mhm.
All right, Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Duto,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Dr. Jewel,
Yes.
and Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. All right, Judy, thank you so much. Good luck with your project and
All right.
safe.
Do I need to do anything after the project's done or like take pictures to show, or is it just?
Sure, we love pictures.
Yes.
Okay, well, I don't know if I have to.
Just, you can send an email with a couple attachments of photographs to Mary, just so
Okay.
that communication going.
She could invite us over when the blueberries arrive.
Oh, there
Yeah,
you go.
that actually sounds good. Yeah, you know, a nice cobbler would be nice.
Okay, maybe some.
Get 'em from the birds.
Okay, then. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Judy.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so number 10, Kenneth Ave, William, sorry if I mispronounce this, Clarity?
Hold on. Yes, good evening. That sounds good. It's pronounced Clarity like Doherty.
Clarity, all right. So you're replacing your existing residential dock.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
And, all right, so Mary, you went out to the site?
Yeah, let me just get the screen up here. I went out and mainly looked at the neighbor's lot. But he has a nice plan here,
Okay.
a couple plans, actually. Are these different, Bill? Are they the same?
Actually, Mary, there's two variations. There was the original submission I made. I think the plan was dated in
Okay,
January. And you had, I think it just had simply asked for a revision which included distant tie lines, if you will,
right.
which I show there. I think that was the major modification to the original plan that I submitted.
All right, so this is the plan. And I should have asked Michelle to review this ahead of time, but I did not
I did.
review it. What's that, Michelle?
I did review it today,
Excellent.
and I have some concerns.
Okay, all right, so, Michelle, did you wanna, you looked at this and, what do you have?
Okay, so what's the distance from, I believe that's 12, Kenneth, numbered 4, right? That's 12, Kenneth?
Yes.
Distance from their property to the dock.
Well, what I'm showing there, that property was recently surveyed.
Yep.
And they put in that IP is an iron pin. So that was recently installed as part of their survey. So that's a good reference from a
Okay.
recent survey. And the other bound, which was an existing bound from the adjacent property, there's a stone bound there, and that's what that other lower.
So what are the distances on land there?
Well, I have 50 feet of frontage.
Okay,
So are you asking me the dimensions from the iron post to the other locations?
I actually have 2 questions. So the first one is, if I was standing on the end of your dock, right at the edge of the water, what's
Okay.
the distance from your neighbors on each side? To the, not in the water end, if I'm standing at the land end? What's the distance from the property line on both sides of you?
Well, let's see, if I try and just scale it. If I just try and scale it, it looks like it's pretty equally distant in terms of the beginning of the new dock.
Okay,
I'm just kind of, I don't have a scale with me, but if I just look at that, I would say it's pretty equally distant. And again, I have 50 feet of frontage, so.
okay.
If I were to.
Well, if your scale is 1 inch equals 20 feet, then this looks about, I mean, I don't have the actual plan in front of me. Is it 20 feet? Is it 15 feet? Is it 10 feet from that IP?
From that IP, again, I unfortunately, I don't have a scale with me in front of me, but if I were to hazard a guess, I get 50 feet of frontage. I'm assuming it's like, I'm going to say it's like 20 plus feet on either side.
Okay. And what's the distance from the side of the fork closest to 12 and the property?
So that would be, you're referring to number 12, Kenneth, I assume, which,
Yep.
yeah. Again, just looking at the scale, I don't know, maybe 25 feet.
Okay. So Mary, can we bring up the GIS with
Yeah.
the Google map on it? The one that shows like an old picture?
Yes.
So I'll try to explain what my concern is to the other commissioners before I terrorize everybody with asking for numbers. So as everybody knows, there are specific rules to chapter 91, and then it comes down to the commission being thoughtful in their approach, especially in places where the land has a curve to it or a cove or something like that. And this particular land concerns me for that reason. That if we stick to very specific, your dock in the middle of your property, it has to go out straight. I'm concerned that we're restraining the property owners of number 12.
Yeah,
How I visualize this dock when I try to put it on top of that Google map is that if it projects out as far as the plan is now, it will actually constrain 12 from having a dock that's within reason for chapter 91.
yeah, you cannot impede on navigable waterways for a particular property.
Right, and you can't impede on their egress to their property either. So
Yeah.
if you could zoom in a little bit. Okay, so I believe that's 10 right now, right? That big
This is-
long dock in the middle.
Yeah.
That was, yes, that was the existing dock that I came with the property.
Yeah, this
And
is
then-
a few years old, so it's 2013, but it might be the best picture. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's just to give an idea of what the land looks like. You'll notice it kind of curves in and you have 3 properties easily sharing just a little curve of water. So the dock on 10, and I'm just making some assumptions here, assuming that's the length, approximate length. And if you're gonna add a fork onto it, that would go more to the left, closer to 12. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
most
where
likely.
does 12 put their dock?
I think I have some pictures maybe of the current dock configuration
I think I
with
looked
12.
at- I think I looked at one which had 12 with their dock to the far left, sort of
Yeah.
intruding on their neighbor, which would be like 14.
Yeah, like here we go. This is
So in this situation, that dock on 12 would never pass a chapter 91 because it's almost on 14. So we might have to play a little bit with some of the parts here, because I'm concerned if we approve this dock as it's drawn, we restrict the access for 12.
Well, we also, and I think the state would take into account, Michelle, which, I mean, obviously it's, you know, on our level too, we need to have that regulatory, you know, the regulatory authority of which we have within the municipality as board, but number 10 is in a very particular situation where
Yep.
they are tucked in the corner there.
Yeah,
You know,
but in this particular layout, we prevent 12 from having a dock that's more in line with chapter 91. So that was kind of where my concern comes in, that everything is skewing to the left.
oh, the, number 12 is, I think, Petrillo, right? Petrillo should have a chapter 91 filing, right, Mary?
I don't know that, I'm not sure that he has one yet. You know, he has an open order of conditions and I imagine that was part of it, but
Yeah,
Colby is on the line. He might not be right here, but because he's on the agenda later.
I'm here if you have any questions.
Yeah, Kobe, do you, on your current, we don't have your current order in front of us right now, but as part of your filing from what, a year ago, I think we had told you that you need to file for a chapter 91 permit on your dock.
Yes, you did. Yep.
Okay. You haven't done that process yet, have you?
Nope. I basically handed that whole thing off to my lawyer
Okay.
when they went to the engineers and kind of got together on that.
Yeah.
He did tell me, however, my dock had to move over some
Mhm.
because it was encroaching on the property line to my, if you're facing the water to the left.
Yep.
Yeah, that's exactly what Michelle's talking about right now is, you know, we're trying to be able to allow all of you to have docks here without kind of impeding on each other and not being on top of one another. Your dock, if your lawyer looked at it, he obviously knows chapter 91. And you need to be 25 feet is ideal from your neighbor's property line.
Which I don't know if you can actually do it in this particular
Not
space.
in this particular configuration, no.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, because of the tightness there, that's why the dock is off to the left.
Yeah.
And like I said, I brushed it off, figuring I'd handle the chapter 91 kind of closer to the end, because basically for the main reason, it will force me to move the dock to the right towards number 10.
But as it stands right now, if you move too far to the right, you guys will bang into each other.
I'm sorry, I keep muting Colby because of background noise. I didn't realize it was him. I apologize, Colby.
Sorry. Yeah. So, yeah, obviously I can't go too far to the right, unless I'm not sure exactly where, what direction number 10 wants to head, but obviously with the way it's now, I can't really move too far to the left. Right, rather, sorry, the right.
So I think we need a better scale of what's being proposed for 10 and may have to consider scaling it back some to give a little more space to 12. It's hard to tell from this Google picture exactly how everything lays out. But given just what we can see, we wouldn't allow that sort of setup. And I'm wondering if 10 came back a little bit. I'm not sure how much the fork would jut out toward 12. And then 12 came back down closer to the mid property. We could get 3 nice diagonal docks. It doesn't necessarily mean all these parts and pieces to them. They may have to be somewhat simpler. I just don't feel comfortable in approving a chapter 91 as it's currently presented to us, because it will not work for the neighbors.
Well, if I can jump in, Michelle, I'm trying to work as best I can to accommodate, both of my neighbors.
I understand you have a tough property.
Yeah. So I'm trying to accommodate both the butters and still try to obviously make something that works for me, that I can access my property.
Oh, I understand.
Let me ask a question for Colby. Do you by any chance have any idea, you said you handed it off to your lawyer, do you have any idea when he might be getting back to you with his opinion, at least?
Well, he basically told me, so I gave him a picture right out of the gate. I knew you needed a drawing of what the dock looked like. So I basically shot him an image. It looks a little different than what's there, but for the most part, that's where the dock was sitting. He told me right out of the gate, I can't apply for it like this. It will not pass. It has to be closer to the center of your property.
Right.
So at that point, I just kind of said, well, okay, well, let me, again, I realized how tough it was going to be. I was kind of going to get together with Bill, and as I moved over, just kind of figure it out. Again, because when I go for the chapter 91, it's going to have to get moved over to some degree. And then once we found a good spot for it, I would draw it, and then he would send the request in, or apply, or however it works.
Yeah, thank you. I agree with Michelle. I think we need a little more specific data on measurements and exactly what it is we're supposed to be looking at.
Well, the depth there too is important, because that determines that also how far out the dock should it extend. It's basically an oceanic permit that applies to Great Ponds, which Webster is. So, some docks may need to go stretch out a bit further so that the boat doesn't get stuck in the mud and damage anything. And as everyone knows, we had a drought last year, so a lot of boats ended up in the sand. But then again, you're in a rubric where you can only be a maximum of a certain amount of feet.
I'm, I just
I was going to ask that question next. Actually, the proposed new dock is going to be how many square feet of surface?
Approximately 300 square feet.
For 300 square, that's what we're looking at now. Okay.
Yes.
No, the dimensions on there look like, yeah, somewhere around 300.
352 is what I calculated.
Yeah.
But I think that we need, most importantly, is that we need the distance from each prong of what I've been calling the fork to figure out how much space there is to each neighbor. It looks like the Indian Lane neighbor might be okay, but definitely 12 is.
Well, one more question. In this sketch here, the main dock, the section that connects to the shoreline, is that the existing dock? And we're talking about the addition that's L-shaped there?
No, the existing dock is aluminum wooden dock that's shown in the GIS graphic there.
Right, but is that the same dimensions as
Yeah,
on the sketch minus that thing off to the side?
The new dock is a little bit shorter. The one that's shown in the graphic, the existing dock is 50 feet in length, and the new dock is 48 feet, but that also includes the ramp, which is 8 feet in length. So I guess technically the new dock is a little bit shorter, 48, so it'll be 40 feet. Just the dock, excluding the ramp.
Right. So in this picture we're looking at right now, the GIS picture, that L-shaped piece on the dock is going to go around that pontoon boat. Is that correct?
Yes, but I have, and you're correct, but I have tried to shift that a little I guess that would be, I've tried to shift that a little bit in an easterly direction.
Well, it seems like you'd need to kind of tilt it or shift it a little bit almost to, what would that be, a southeasterly way, looking at the north arrow here? Is there a way of tucking this, have it almost be like a fork and have that, that middle piece of, 4 feet by 10 feet there? Kind of sort of move it over a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly,
Southeast?
yeah, I mean, I can certainly try and do that. Again, I'm trying to accommodate both neighbors as best I can. But yeah, I mean, I certainly think that could be.
Well, the thing is too, Bill, is we're also are assisting you with being able to pass the 91 certificate. Because if they were to look at this and, they would more than likely, they could end up kicking it back at you and saying this configuration isn't correct. And you're not meeting if you don't meet the performance standards, they'll just deny it. So that's why the filing comes before the commission to best, help you with this, solve these issues. So
I also think the picture should include the Indian Lake property. Indian Lane, I'm sorry, 11 Indian Lane, which is on the other side.
yeah, they will want to see that. They're going to want to see a good view of what's on both sides.
And the locus is correct, but
Yeah. But they will need, they'll want to see that adjacent property. Yeah.
So I guess ultimately, we're not saying that 12 has to have their dock all set up and figured out. We can try to sort out 10 with something reasonable, and then 12 will have to sort of fit in the box.
Yeah. Kobe, it would be really, if you're still listening, it'd be probably good to know approximately right now how far off your dock is from the property line, how many feet that is approximately. And, you know, you need to be exceeding at least 15 feet from the property line.
Yeah, so my dock, it got pushed over a little bit because of the ice. I did move it over some,
Okay.
in the fall.
Yep.
Where I had it is probably roughly 15 feet. It was closer to 10. Again, I'm trying not to squeeze too much down on 10 there. But I can get it over to that 15 feet mark.
Yeah.
And again, tuck it into, it's kind of hard to see in this picture, but actually Bill's drawing that he did, it kind of gives you a good idea. So, I mean, if you're looking at it from this view, and if you came in that 10, 15 feet or so, and then tuck it right into the wall as tight as you can, that's kind of where I'm trying to be, you know?
But for you, Mary, if you go back to the ortho, I feel like yours, think of this as, you know, an absolute north and south. You need to you may need to sort of tuck yours and rotate it a little bit more to the north so that it almost gives a little bit of extra, you know, so there's some breathing room on 10.
Yeah.
And eventually 11, I'm sure there'll be some filing eventually with them. And we'll probably have to have them rotate to the east a bit. I think trying to get most of these docks to kind of point out to open water is the best idea. Not, and of course, not all lots are the same size. Some people don't have a choice, but to, you know, I don't know what the frontage is for 11, but they really have it looks minimal here, but.
Yeah, that's, yeah, Indian Inn, right? 11 Indian Inn.
Oh, is that what it is? Indian Inn Road. So, but number 11 there is gonna need to, you know, at some point we're gonna need to, you know, talk with them or figure out something with them. But it looks like they've got a dock that's right on the line there.
Yep.
And that really should probably point more to the out over the open water.
Yeah, this is a newer one. That was old. This one looks like they moved it over.
Yeah, they moved it, but it should kind of, you know, these things are designed to move, you know, kind of, you can manipulate them. So, and that's something that you'd probably want to on a some sort of scale, Bill, is look at kind of, you know, it's coming out from the property. You're gonna have to slide it a little bit, but it may need to rotate left or right a little bit. Just a few feet of clearance makes a big difference.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree.
Especially in a tight cove like this.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to your point is those docks are movable for the most part.
Yeah.
And I think I even, like on a plan, I put that note on there that the proposed dock location is approximate, because once it's assembled by the local marina, you know, we can kind of move it a little bit to try and accommodate both sides, so, both properties.
I think we need another sketch, like you said, Joey, with all those dimensions on it, from the property lines to the docks.
Yeah.
And you know, the problem I see there is adding the extension onto that existing dock is going to limit the neighbor's ability to move his dock over a little bit. And like you said, I think it's just a matter of getting the actual dimensions that are accurate and seeing how both properties can accommodate what each wants. But as it is right now, it doesn't look like either one of them would be able to get a Chapter 91 permit.
I mean, the state ultimately, makes the decision. But, they really look at the commission to work with the residents to obviously help them along with the permitting. So
Right.
I think probably what we're gonna need to do is see, you're definitely gonna need to, for Chapter 91, they're gonna want to know the distance from each, the setback for each property line.
Right.
And it seems like you may need to almost put this a little bit more towards the opposite property, 11 Indian Inn. And I don't know if keep it like that or try to somehow rotate it a little bit away from 12, but not too much of, it's like, do it this way, but not too much, and then slide it this way, but not too much. And then, when we get to Kobe's, it's going to be the same way.
Yeah. No, that's the reason for the configuration with that. With that horseshoe, because it does sort of allow me to get access, to park my boat in between as opposed to left or right, if you will. So
Yes.
Have you considered making that original piece of dock that goes out to the fork, meet the fork in the middle instead of going to the left or to the right?
Well, that's what I had suggested earlier.
So in other words, slide it easterly, I guess. That section you're pointing at.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, that's shown with all the pieces in place, but I don't see any reason why that can't shift.
You have to have an exact outline of your dock for Chapter 91. You can't change it after you get your Chapter 91 permit. So if it's shifted to the left or to the right and it's a change from what you submit, technically it's not legal. So if there was a fight in that cove over whose dock was supposed to be where, yours would have to go back to the Chapter 91. Because we've actually seen neighbors arguing over dock placement and they had to bring out the Chapter 91s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just to summarize, again, I don't have a problem trying to shift. I'll call it the horseshoe in an easterly direction, is what it sounds like what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I think we need to all of the dimensions.
Yeah, we're gonna definitely need all of the dimensions too on this one. And they require it too, so. Anything else in this one, Michelle, that you noticed?
No, that was it, I think.
Okay.
And you do have to have the total square footage of the dock on this picture when you finally submit it.
Okay. So I've got both the dock and the ramp. So again, I think I calculated it earlier. I think the dock itself is about 300 square feet approximately, but I can show that. I can just show that on the revised plan.
Yep, that's all you need because they'll look for the total.
And
is there a boat lift?
No.
Okay. Because if you had a boat lift, you have to count that in your square footage.
And then is it this graphic, Michelle, that you need to show the distance from the property line?
Oh, I would. Yeah, I would
Okay.
add 11 Indian Lane on this graphic. I would show the distance at the land from both the property lines and in the water, since this is an odd configuration.
Yeah. Okay. So, because there needs to be revisions here, do we want to continue this to the next meeting? Do we need to?
Yes.
Okay. So can I get a motion then? Do you have any questions, Bill?
No, I think, I understand what you're asking. I think a lot of it is just informational.
Yeah.
Again, I'll see what I can do. And
It's
again,
part of, yeah, it's part of the process. It's unfortunately, you know, there's obviously good reason for these, you know, the regulations. But in some cases, you know, like you're in a tight cove, so it's almost, you know, you tend to be the exception for most people.
If it's any help to you, Bill, look at the actual application for the chapter 91 and when you redo your sketch, make sure you include all the dimensions and things that they asked for on there.
yeah, I actually have submitted I actually have submitted the application, so,
Okay.
This application was already submitted to the state?
yes.
Okay. All right, so then let's, if you could, if you get any questions, you can contact Mary. And then I guess we'll just, motion to, continue to April 5th.
I'll make that motion. Continue.
I'll second.
All right, Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Duto,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Dr. Jewel,
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. All right. Well, Bill, if you have questions, you please let us know, okay?
Sure, I'll chat with Mary during the week.
Yeah. All right, very good. Enjoy.
Yep, very good. Yep, thank you. Yep, good night now.
All right, good night. All right, so we're now on to public hearings, notices of intent, also known as NOIs. I'm going to call on Dan, our board clerk, to read information on the notices of intent.
Okay. In accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Series 40, as amended, Wetlands Protection Act. This public hearing tonight is being held. I believe we have 2 notices of intent to look at regarding projects that will affect that will be subject to the Wetlands Protection Act.
Okay, and with that, I want to call everyone's attention to 1 Wakefield Ave that has been continued to April 5th from the last meeting. We will need to, on 168 Chase Ave, Town of Webster is the applicant, demolition of a home in the front area. We need to make a motion to continue that project as Ted, the building inspector, is still working out the specifics on that. So if I can get a motion of continuance to April 5th on that, please.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right, did we figure out who's seconding there?
Should we give it
Do
to Fred?
it.
Yeah.
All right.
Michelle, you want to defer that to Fred?
Yes, I'll
No.
defer.
Let
I
Fred
gotta
get
look
it.
like I did something.
Let Fred get it in.
All right, Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Duto,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Dr. Jewel,
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. Okay, next up, 12 Kenneth Ave, Kobe Petrillo, looking to amend the order of DEP number 323-1155, design changes to his retaining wall This was continued from March 1st. So, you still with us, Kobe?
Yeah, she's there. Yeah, they're there.
I just asked him to unmute.
Kobe, you still with us? I think it was dinner he was cooking in the background, so.
Yeah.
Hello?
There you are. How you doing?
Dad, shut up.
All right, so
Hello?
you're looking to amend your order, based on the last conversation we had with your, adjustments to the retaining wall and work that was going on
Oh,
your.
geez, it's already my turn. I apologize. Yes,
your
okay, here
property
we go.
there. Yeah, no, it's okay. You know, folks are trying to have dinner and take care of other business while in the meeting. So, okay, so we've got, do I see, Mary, are there 5? I'm seeing 1 through 5 here. Maybe if you could come in a little bit.
Yeah, there's going to be 3 levels of wall, and I think he's putting one at the shoreline.
Okay. Which I think is currently, is that done? Is that one done? Can you give us an update on the project?
Have some
Yes, so,
pictures.
yep, wall number 1 is done. We're calling, wall number 1 is closest to the water, right?
Okay, yep.
So, wall number 1 is done. Mary had asked a question when I was in the office a couple weeks ago, about the walls being basically in a straight line in the picture that I drew,
Yes,
opposed to that tapered edge
yep.
in the drawing. The wall number 1, again, you forgive my drawing ability.
Okay,
On the, looking at the drawing, the north end of the wall, there is a curvature that heads back towards the roadside. And
Okay, so
then,
you're following the contour of the land?
The picture below,
yes,
the
but
sketch
then it-
below that.
and then it dives in, heading towards, back towards the road at the very, very end.
Yep.
Kind of giving it a, almost a U shape, you know, the U would be facing the street, I guess. It's
Yes.
not so profound, but it's heading that direction.
Okay.
The wall at the southern end, that is dead-ended pretty much in a straight line because the top of that wall meets the grade of the hill that kind of is between the 2 property lines.
Okay.
So that's dead-ended. Heading up the hill to walls 2 and 3, those will have more of a curvature to them and actually a return on the ends of the walls.
Okay,
Number 3 would be the most profound because that top of wall will be so much different than existing grade. So so wall number 3, the top of it will have the most profound return.
okay. All right, so so we need to, all right, so this essentially 4th or 3rd and 4th tier here are additions that we need to add into your order, correct, Mary? Was that the only thing?
Yeah, well, I think it's 3 walls total, right, Kobe?
Yes, correct.
Okay, all right,
So-
sorry.
That's
And then
what's going to change.
Okay,
And the shape is changed. And I was there at the property. I have some pictures, but I think they got flipped. So it's actually very disorienting to look at them.
okay,
We can look at a few of them. I know this one is flipped because that's Mr.
Oh, yes,
Cody's.
that's flipped, yeah.
But I don't think all of them are. Is that one flipped too? Maybe they all are.
Yeah, that looks wrong.
I don't know how that happened. And this one, I believe, is flipped as well.
Yeah, I don't even know how you did that.
I don't even know either. That one's
Mary,
flipped.
no more usage of the camera, Mary.
I know.
Yeah,
This-
that's pretty interesting.
I know.
You had some setting on that.
I know, I hit some setting. This one might be right though, or maybe not. Maybe this is next to
So it would be flipped. The wall in that picture would be on the left, and the
Yeah.
end of excavation would be more to the right.
yeah, so this is at the edge of Mr. Cloherty's property here, right?
Yeah, I believe you can see the flag.
Right
yeah.
there.
Yep.
Wait,
And it's a little bit of, this part I think needs a little cleaning up. You can't tell very well because it's in the shadow, but it's a pretty steep slope and a little raw. Maybe put a
Yeah,
little
so-
straw wattles.
Yeah, and what'll end up happening there too is where you see that open, that grade is actually going to taper right across the front of the wall, so it won't just be straight down.
Right.
That hill will come right across the front of the wall. So some of that wall on that end is going to be buried.
Okay.
can I ask you, Colby, do you have your turbidity curtain in the water now?
Yes.
Okay, all right, because I don't think we're gonna end up getting a heavy ice again. So it really,
I left it in all winter.
oh, okay, yeah, some people
It was
do.
a pretty sturdy curtain.
Okay, I just,
Yeah,
want-
here's the curtain. And
All
the,
right.
the erosion controls ended up floating out into the ice. I imagine you're gonna rescue those, Colby? I don't know.
Yeah, I pulled them all back actually a couple days ago.
Yeah.
I'm gonna kind of reset. Everything got destroyed with this winds and everything else.
yeah,
I got to reset the turbidity curtain. Like I said, I pulled those hay wattles back. I'm actually going to put the hay wattles and the silt fence right across wall number 1 at the top, and really create a good barrier going forward. So as we clean that right up right there, we're going to put the silt fence right across the top of that wall, and then put the hay wattles right behind it, right in front of it rather.
okay. Yeah, because right now, as we're coming into the spring, it's wet season.
Mhm.
And, yeah, you know, we want to make sure that we catch,
It was very nicely set up before the winter
Yeah.
rolled in.
yeah. Okay. Commissioners, any questions? This is still an active, I mean, you're still active now with this, correct?
Yes. Oh, the other thing you had asked me about was the trees.
Yep.
And me and Bill had spoke. That's number 10, Bill. And we are gonna take them down, and we're gonna kind of do some different plantings. I think I told you arborvitae's in the beginning, but we talked, and we're gonna kind of do some different stuff, not necessarily just arborvitae's. And we're gonna do some plantings along the side there as well.
Okay. Yeah, because those, like I said, those are diseased. They really need to go.
Yeah. Like I said, we talked the other day, and yeah, we agreed to take them down, and we're gonna put some stuff back.
Great. Okay, so, so the official amendment to this project is to add in the change in, essentially the change in design on this. So, does any of you commissioners have questions? Pretty straightforward. Did you do did you do kind of a turkey dip for to rescue all the stuff out in the water?
Yeah, it was very cold. It was just the other day. My neighbor's dock was actually number 11 on Indian Inn was floating away. I put the weight on. I went in after that.
Jeez.
My own dock had moved, so I tied that one up, and I pulled the hay wattles out as well. So it was quite cold.
A lot of rescuing this spring, I think, is going to
Yeah.
finding all sorts of stuff on their shores.
And to be clear, for the record, me and my father get along great, although I yelled at him. He was trying to talk on the phone. I'm trying to figure out the computer. It was a tense moment.
It's all right. I think we had your father way back, you and your father on way back when you were proposing those stairs. At one.
Yeah. I was working it, and he
really
to me.
Talk about a change of design.
Yeah, it was. We were the stairs were really a temporary fix to the problem, and it just wasn't gonna help us enough.
Absolutely. All right, so folks, so do we need a motion to approve the amendment to 12 Kenneth Ave, the trailer residence?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Thank you.
All right, we have Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Duto,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Dr. Jewel,
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. All right, so Kobe, if you could just, keep us updated with, maybe with how things are going. If you encounter any kind of issues, particularly erosion, please just partner with Mary. Let her know, hey, I had a problem with this and I'm doing this to fix it.
Sure.
Just because, things are a bit raw there right now and from a professional, it looks a little, it's a little eye-opening. So we just want to make sure that things through the spring stay stable.
Yeah, when we get back at it, we're gonna basically get that rawness buttoned up ASAP, and basically we're trying to get away from the water as quickly as possible.
Well, the summer's coming. You want to enjoy that, so.
Well, that's true too.
All right, sir. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And
Thank you.
we'll talk to you soon. If you need anything, let us know.
Okay, great. Talk to you soon.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, I got 7:20. Does anyone need to take a moment, commissioners? Do we need 2 minutes?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm fine.
All right. So next up, Goddard Street, parcel 14E11-1 and 14E11-2. Applicant is Mr. Catola. Owner is Mrs. Bonaventura. Construction of 2 single-family homes. We were there on Saturday, met up with Mr. Morrow, traveling consulting agent. Does wetlands, and looked at the wetland area, and we've got questions on there's a very old easement, stormwater easement there. Not even sure if it's an easement, but definitely stormwater pipe there that is actually broken. So do we have folks for the Goddard Street project on the line? Paul, do I say Paul? Is that your name, Paul?
Paul Grazowitz,
Okay.
Graz Engineering.
All right, so are you representing the client for this?
Yes.
Okay. So if you wouldn't mind taking us through the project?
All right, basically, it's a single lot. We would like to, or the owner would like to subdivide it and put 1 single family home on each of the 2 lots. So those are your 30 by 29 rectangles on there, proposed 3-bedroom houses. We have the buildings set back at the 30-foot front setback line. We're basically, keeping the grade fairly level with the roadway and the sidewalk. And then as you come into the lot, we're grading down to meet natural grade and have a walkout in the back of both of these. We have, Matt flagged the wetlands. I should say, when we were out there doing our survey, his previous wetland flags had all been removed. So he flagged it again and gave us some locational information. And then I know he met with you guys on Saturday, and he made some adjustments also on that. And from what I gather from the information, I think around that broken pipe, that line came in probably close to 30 feet towards the road. Does that sound correct?
Yeah, that's about right. When we actually got there, he was just finishing up he was just spot checking a few places with the auger. You know, of course, we discussed the elephant in the room, which is you know, obviously the wetland in the back and its connectivity to this old terracotta pipe in the roadway, and there's clearly you know, we hadn't received very much water. There's no water in or nearby, but there's definitely water running within there. You know, we're curious about you know, what is you know, what we need to do with this particular pipe, and you know, what its particular function is. And now, is this particular map here, or set of plans rather, is this the new one with the wetland line on it?
No, this is the original one.
All right.
I do have another plan with what I perceive to be the new wetland line. I didn't get the information until mid-afternoon from Matt.
Okay.
So I haven't had a chance to send it to him to you know, to look at it and see if it, you know, jives with what he did there. But
yeah,
I could, if you want, I could share that with you.
Yeah, if you've got it, and you know, perhaps
Share this.
Gary can give you the ability to pull it up so we can see the new wetland line on there.
All right, you should be able to now.
Joy,
Yes.
just so you know, and so Paul knows also, I did email the water department and about that broken culvert, and it suggested that the builder it's spring is coming, the builder wants to get building, and they need to get over there and look and see what they need to do about that culvert.
Okay.
I think you should be able to see the plan. I hope.
On the bottom of your screen, Paul, you should be able to hit share screen. And once you hit share screen, it's going to ask you, do you really want to share your screen? You want to say yes.
It says the host disabled participant screen sharing.
Let's see. Well, oh, try it again.
Sometimes it takes a few.
Did that work? No? Nothing?
No.
Oh, wait. I think I'm almost there. Here we go. There we go. That should work.
All right. So all right. So this is the new wetland flag boundary.
Yes. Again, like I said, Matt gave me the information. I haven't gotten it back to them, but the line used to come along the right here up to this broken pipe, and then it went this way.
Yeah.
So this area has been added, which also, pushed the 50-foot buffer way up here and your 100-foot buffer out to the road.
Yeah.
So we probably should discuss with DPW the dealing with that pipe.
I think that that is probably going to want to be, I mean, the wetland flag, I mean, it's been flagged. This is these are fairly flat lots. So, I mean, any kind of, development on them. I mean, the only thing that I noticed is from the previous homes that were there, they were taken down and it was like they were just, whoever had taken them down didn't necessarily excavate all of the, there's a lot of materials still in the dirt there. You could see a lot of bricks and a lot of, pieces of toy and from the dwelling or dwellings that used to be there. So, but aside from that, the wetland is very intact back there. It's obviously doing its thing, but there's two parts here that are of concern to me. Is number one, let's get a conversation going with DPW. As far as what this, what's going on with this particular stormwater pipe. If you're going to be excavating, it probably wouldn't be too much to actually get that upgraded. It'd be really nice to know where the water is coming from in there. We're probably going to need to, and we really didn't actually look too much there, but there may need to be just probably at the end of that pipe, possibly a little bit of wetland restoration there to get some of the silts and sands out of there. Probably just need to be dug down a bit and popping in some wetland plants in there to try to rehabilitate that area. And as it takes storm water, it'll be able to absorb more. That would be my recommendation for consideration there on those two things. Both of these properties are pretty much fairly set back from the wetland. Right now we don't have, obviously you don't have DEP numbers, so we wouldn't be able to move forward with any kind of order tonight on them. As far as the other commissioners, do you have any specific input, concerns?
I have a question.
Okay.
Is the grading going to change in this property? Is it going to be regraded to come up closer to the road level? Or are you leaving it sort of at the grade?
Right now we've got a 486 at the road, and you can see, I got my cursor here, there's an existing 484 running along the front right here.
Yep.
So we're bringing that 484 to the house, or right in front of this lot. And so we're keeping it relatively flat here, and then we're sloping down. So you can see on this one, 480's hitting natural right here. And then the same thing down here, 478's hitting natural here. So we're putting some little bit of fill in the front to flatten it, but then we're getting back grade, right? Pretty much by the time we get just behind these proposed buildings there.
And nothing going on near where the pipe comes in? Because it seems like that's a pretty tough drop from the road.
I mean, it is a pretty, that's probably what, probably about a 6 foot from the sidewalk down there.
Yeah.
Second grade it.
Right, the rim's 486 catch basin and 474 at this one. That's why we're doing a walkout here.
Yeah.
So we're dropping from 484 down to 478 with proposed grade. But it's a nice natural walkout slope.
Okay. Something else that I just thought about when I was there that I saw, the next door neighbor, if you look at their garage, the next door neighbor is sending all their water onto the property. So that's something that probably should be, they're gonna need to reroute their water, because that wouldn't be appropriate to have the next door neighbor discharging water onto someone else's property. You can't do that. And they can very easily send it towards the wetland in the back. They just need to, you can see the pipe sticking out of the ground. Looks like a lawnmower hit it. As far
Where's the water from these houses gonna go?
What's that, Michelle?
Where's the water from these houses gonna go? I mean,
It's gonna be-
Buzzards, Overland.
It's gonna be graded to go back to behind the house. So they won't be going. I'm gonna stop sharing because I'm getting all messed up here. The grading will be, it'll take the water away from the building, but bring it straight back. So they won't be going sideways onto the abutters.
I'm more concerned about erosion into that wetland.
Yeah, once we get behind the house, it'll be pretty flat. So we've got erosion control going all the way across on our limit of work. So it's going to be fairly flat back here.
It's going to be fairly flat, but you're probably going to need to think about, based upon the square footage of the impervious, we're going to need the impervious calculations of the properties. And then are you planning on putting a gutter system on these homes?
I'd have to talk to the builder about that. I mean, we could, if you want to have us pick the roof runoff up, we could certainly put some dry wells in.
Yeah, I was going to say we should probably send the water into dry wells so that we conform with storm water. And we're not just having water sheet off of the roofs, and then you cause an erosion drip line around the house. And we've had issues with this on other properties. So, dry wells would probably be appropriate. The better option is Cultex, but depending upon the like I said, the square footage and what it can take for, a dry well. But remember that these properties are fairly adjacent to a wetland, so there could be, I don't really see it being an issue, but the water table could be a bit higher here. Because this is sort of a lowland between two hills.
Right, but I could bring them up towards the front, versus putting them in the back.
Yeah, just something to collect the water and allow it to really get percolated down into the ground. That's the important thing. So
Yeah, you're looking at about 72 cubic feet of storage per house.
Okay.
It's a pretty good sized dry well.
Yeah.
Well, actually,
we'll take a look at that. We've done chambers with grates.
The one thing that I didn't take into account was what are the driveways going to be made of? They're going to be blacktop, stone?
Right now. Yeah, I'm assuming they're paved. I'll have to check with the builder on it, but typically they pave their driveways.
Yeah, so it's gonna have to be a little bigger than the 82 or the 72. Because I did not, when I did the calculations, I did not allow for the driveway.
Thanks for that, Fred.
And a couple of quick questions about the houses, Paul. You mentioned they're on here as 29 by 30. Is that the final configuration, do you think?
That's what I was given by the builder. I'll double check that with him.
And how about, you have a walkout in the back? Will there be a patio or anything like that back there?
I'm gonna have to look into that. I wasn't planning on it.
Paul, let's put it this way. The next time that we're on the call, who's your builder?
It's Water Construction.
All right, why don't we have, if they can get on for the next meeting with you, that way we can, specific questions for the development, we can address to them. That way nothing's lost in translation and all the parties are on the same page.
That would be great.
Yeah. That would be really good. Because in this, we've got specific questions and, they don't get, they get lost in translation and we want to make sure everything is cohesive in this.
Yep.
And Mary, I think maybe if Kenny has some input and whatnot, we should have Kenny from DPW on the next call, so that we can hear from him as far as what has been discussed and what his recommendations are. And then, like I had mentioned, Paul, like we probably should assess a bit of the wetland in the back there, and see, how much silt. There's definitely silts in there, and they're probably going to need to be bucketed out. And just probably some minor restoration there. But maybe. Just probably popping in just some additional wetland plants back there to help restore the wetland there.
Okay.
Joey, I was wondering if the commission wanted to, and obviously this will change because the wetland line has changed, but where you can have like, say 25 feet from the old line, having kind of a no disturb area where they would replant the area that had already been cut down and delineate somehow the edge with a fence or something so that people are not tempted to put a playground back there or whatever. Just this is the edge of your lawn. It's a small backyard and that's how it is.
Yeah, I think that's probably appropriate.
Hey, Joey?
Done that with boulders before, spacing boulders 8 foot,
If you
no disturb zone.
You got something natural, we like natural, so. And boulders are a way to, there's no shortage of boulders around, so if you've got some, bring them in, and probably maybe every 5 feet perhaps. That way the wetland is permanently left alone and it can do its thing and can function.
Hey, Joey?
Yes.
And to the rest of the commission, it's Carl Kalashevsky. I own the property at 28 Goddard Street.
Hi.
How are you doing? And thank you for allowing me on the meeting.
Okay.
I grew up at 28 Goddard Street. I'm very familiar with that piece of property. We used to go, it was an apple orchard, and we used to go sliding down there, and actually we used to catch frogs in the swamp back there. So when you mentioned the fact that there were
buildings there before. It may have been over 100 years ago because back in the 60s, that's been an apple orchard for many, many, many years. And the Jakubowskis used to have Mother's Market where there is an existing piece of property right next on that, by that retaining wall. That used to be Mother's Market many, many years ago, back in the 30s and 40s.
Okay.
I'm very familiar with this piece of property, and I'm excited about the people being able to develop it. But you know, like I said, I don't know about that culvert. I do know that there was always swampland back there because, needless to say, over the past 60 years, it's grown over. But it used to be actually an actual body of water back in the late 50s and early 60s that there was a little passage through that you could get up through the property to Granite Street.
Yeah. Okay. That's great to know. Yeah, no, when we were there, we saw obviously that there were several trees that have been taken down at some point. They've been chipped, but there was a lot of, you could tell that something had been torn down, and you could see old bricks, probably bricks about as old as what you're talking about. So I'm thinking when the original dwelling that was there was torn down, you know, there's still a lot of fragments of that in there.
Well, that would probably have to be before the apple orchard was in there, because I don't know how far down they dug to take a look at that property, but the apple orchard has been there since at least the early 50s.
Okay.
And that culvert that comes under the road, which really is closer to 24 Goddard Street, I think there's a culvert that comes, and that's where that the water drains down back into the swamp. And I don't have a cursor, so I can't look. But if you go to looking at this closer to 27 Goddard Street, where the proposed 3-bedroom house is, there's some type of a culvert that, and they showed, Mary, you showed on the previous picture looking up from up toward Goddard Street, not on the actual pictures, the water that actually goes down through that particular area. But it was, it's hard for me to tell on the graphics. Yeah, like if you take a look exactly where your cursor is, there's water, usually a flow that comes down through that area over here. And I know that the proposed buildings are to the right of that, if you're looking from that direction.
Yeah, that's what we were looking at in there, Carl. If you stand there, you can actually see the water running.
Correct. Believe it or not, that comes all the way, I think, from Whitcomb Street.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's good to know, because we can, you know, Kenny would be able to trace that.
Correct.
And find out, because we were trying to figure out, Jesus, there's no snow nearby.
Yeah.
And you know, it hadn't rained. So we're like, you know, how is it? I mean, it was a good flow going on in there.
Oh, yes, that's right. I think there's either a natural spring or something, which, believe it or not, years ago, the priests from St. Joseph's used to park their cars in the garage right to the left on that property. They rent the garages over there. They used to cut down from Whitcomb Street right alongside number 24 and walk down to their vehicles at number 27.
Okay.
So I'm happy to work with the.
We like to hear.
I'm happy to work with the Conservation Committee to be able to help anybody out, Paul, yourself, and any of the builders, because I grew up over there and I'm very, very familiar with all that terrain.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate that very much, because it gives us an idea what used to be there. It's kind of interesting that there used to be an apple orchard there.
Oh, yeah, there were probably about 25 or 30 apple trees. So when you said pre-existing dwellings, I was kind of surprised at that, because if they were pre-existing, they probably belonged to Paul Revere.
Yeah. Okay.
That was a joke, by the way.
Obviously, as well before my time. So, yeah, I mean, we're going to obviously work with, you know, with the builder and with the applicant and see what we can get developed here. Yeah, see, that's a good picture there, Mary.
That's a great picture.
All that silt that's in there, and if we can kind of figure out, you know, how to kind of remediate that a bit, and get, you know, allow the wetland to be able to sort of regenerate itself a bit and get that, you know, that stormwater pipe fixed.
I think that went to Granite Street, believe it or not. I'm pretty sure, because that's where we used to walk across. There was a narrow area in that swamp, and
Yeah,
again, it may have dried up since that period of time, but you're talking over a half a century ago.
yeah, this was pretty wet when we were there, so.
Correct. Yeah.
You know, it's a particular, you know, it's a particularly interesting area because, you know, it's a, you know, it's a small, you know, small wetland system that runs through a fairly heavily developed area. So,
Correct.
and then this, Mary, if you, where this garage is, the white, and then it goes to, you know, it's very old where it's stone. In that hillside there, Paul, is what I was talking about. There's a downspout that comes, and it, the water is being sent onto the property over here.
Yeah, right where you have that cursor over there, that's kind of like, that used to be like a gully where the water continued to run. I think that's probably where you heard the water continue to run.
Yeah, it was near that catch basin.
Yeah.
That lower catch basin, actually, not the upper one. So
Yep.
something that we need to talk, you know, figure out with Kenny as to, it's interesting that there's two catch basins right next to one another. One's higher, one's lower. So
Mhm.
we don't know if there's two stormwater systems that are crossing one another. It would be odd, but
Well, I'm thinking it was probably much more likely that that lower one is either in there as a clean out, or it was designed for when it starts backing up so that it had a different, it didn't all back up in the pipes. So it just blows out there.
true. And like
'Cause
Carl,
it's at the top of a hill.
yeah, and like Carl had mentioned, there's a spring that's somewhere around here, and a previous wetland scientist had mentioned that there is a you know, she did indeed see evidence of that. So
So that's probably just being diverted into the stormwater.
yeah, we'll just have to investigate it a bit more. So Paul, thank you very much. We're going to end up having to, just because we've got, you know, we need more information.
Sure.
And of course, we need to work out items with Paul. You know, we're just going to have to continue this until, Paul, do you think that April 5th would be appropriate? Or at least give us an update as to where things are, if anything?
Yeah, I think that'll be fine. Sure.
Okay. And Carl, of course, you know, I you know, invite you to attend any of our meetings, but, you know, we welcome you back. And
Yeah. And if Paul, if you give Paul my contact number, I'd be happy to even go and review the site either with him or all of you together and kind of give you some insight from over a half a century ago.
yeah, it's nice to hear history of an area.
Well, we used to go sliding down here and get frogs out of the swamp. So that was actually, we called that the swamp.
Yeah. All right. So with that, Paul, do you have anything else for us at this time?
Nope, I think that's it.
All right. If
Yep.
there's anything, obviously, you know, communicate with Mary, and I would definitely, you know, reach out to Kenny and schedule something with him to figure out, you know, what, you know, what needs to be done with that and where the water's coming from and, you know, whatnot. So, all All right, so with that, can I get a motion to continue 0 Goddard Street parcel 14E11-1 and 14E11-2 to April 5th?
A motion, we continue Goddard Street parcel 1411-1 and 14E11-2 till April 5th.
I'll second.
Great.
All right, Ms. Sherillo,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Duto,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Dr. Jewel,
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
Yes. All right.
All right.
Carl and anyone else here that is for Goddard Street, I bid you good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, folks, so we're at 11 Lakeside Ave. John
Yeah,
Jason?
Kuhachik. Good Polish name for you.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
No problem. You did very well.
All right, so you're looking to construct a 12 by 20 shed and dock, Chapter 91 license, your property.
Yes, I am. Steve Baltzwick's on the phone here too, and I've hired him to do all the work, so I guess I'll let him do most of the talking. I'll fill in as needed, or however this works. I've never been to one of these before.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if, Steve is one of those people you got to kind of keep an eye on.
Hey, listen, hey, one thing I gotta say is you saved the best for last.
We're between you and dinner, right?
So humble.
Mr. B, how you doing?
How are you?
I'm all right.
I'm here representing Mr. Kowachik at 100 Lakeside Avenue. And if you recall, I filed an RDA for Angelo Spitzeris to cut trees down on this parcel. And this plan here, we're proposing to construct a 12 by 20 shed as shown on the plan, and it's hatched. Yeah, you have the cursor on it. And we have a sedimentation barrier around, horseshoe around the back of the shed. And this also shows the docks that are shown. We'd like to configure them as shown on this plan. It is 584 square feet. And I believe I submitted the documents that go to DEP, so you can see my tie distances on that little.
Yeah, these are set back pretty far from both property lines, I believe.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of frontage along the water.
Yeah.
180 feet of water frontage.
Yeah, you have a very nice property.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I met you out here a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, well, I've been there before. I knew Mr. Spitzeris' daughter went to school there. So.
Just my little background. My wife and I are both 1974 graduates of Bartlett High School, but we moved to Boston area for our career, and now we just bought this for our retirement home to move back to our hometown.
Well, you got a nice little piece of little slice of heaven there. So.
Thank you.
And if you go back to the plan that I submitted, around the shed, once it's constructed, and this is like a modular construction, the walls come, the trusses come, the floor comes, it's all on a flatbed. And once it's constructed, we'll plant a couple shrubs around the sides. And pretty much that's about the extent of this NOI. If the board has any questions, I'd be glad to entertain them at this point.
How far is the shed from the water?
Plus or minus 20 feet. I show that distance on the plan.
Okay. Like I couldn't see it.
It's right there.
Oh, yeah.
All right, thank you.
And the reason why it's in that location is we like to maintain the 11-foot distance off the corner of the house in case we need to get a piece of machinery back there.
Be careful, Steve. I'll talk you into some sort of development back there. That's why it's keeping that space there.
Yeah, we'll put a subdivision road.
All right. So,
The runoff from the shed?
Yeah, I was thinking that.
The runoff of the shed will be up in the air, so you have the water that drips off the shed. We're not putting any gutters or anything. It'll just go underneath the shed. We're not,
I would probably line the edges, Steve, with just some rock, just so that when the water comes off.
well, we probably won't put rock. There'll probably be, like I show, the shrubs around both sides of it. We probably
Okay.
put bark mulch.
Okay. Are you putting natural bark mulch?
Yeah, like hemlock or something like that.
Okay. I'm asking that now because it's actually out there quite a bit now that there is a mulch now that's really people are gravitating towards. That is recycled tire.
Oh,
Ouch.
Yeah, yeah.
I've always used hemlock. That's all I'll use.
Yeah, it's not good, number one, for the environment, and it's especially not good if you're near a lake like this. So we got to keep an eye open for that and have people be a bit transparent with it. So I was on a meeting a week ago about it. Okay.
I have a question about the dock, of course.
Okay.
First, Steve, thank you so much for all the measurements. I really appreciate that. Any boat lifts or jet ski lifts included
No.
in them? No. And that top portion of the dock, what is going on there where it looks like two dock portions next to each other?
I would just look at that as like a little patio to put a couple of chairs out there or something here just to sit out in the water. That was just my idea.
Okay, is that two 4-foot sections kind of next to each other?
Yes.
Okay. Chapter 91 might crank at you a little bit. It's supposed to be 4-foot width. I don't have a concern with it, but that is part of the regulation, just so you know.
And it's supposed to be a water dependent use. So technically chairs are not, like you can put a chair on your dock, but to make a place to put chairs on your dock, they might frown on.
Point.
We won't say that to them.
Yeah.
I'm going to put my canoe on top of it when it's out of the water. How's that?
There you go.
I just don't know how fussy they're gonna be about it being wider than 4 feet. So just a heads up. I'm not.
Thank you very much.
Aside from that, it's not obviously imposing for those who don't know this property. It's not imposing on any navigability. I mean, it's not a bad, obviously bad size for that spot. So. Any other questions, folks?
I had a question about just following up on the trees that were cut down. I think part of that was to plant some new ones. Did you ever get around to that?
I just moved in October, so the trees are down, but it's too late to plant. So this is coming springtime is planning to do that.
Okay, just wanted to follow through on that one.
Sorry, I had another question. Any floating docks?
No, these are all anchored as shown in my detail on the next page of the document.
Thank you.
Whatever configuration, we kind of covered all bases. That's typically 3 different ways that you anchor them.
Yeah.
It'll most likely be the first one.
Getting the docks through Lakeview Marine, and Sean Deary, who's the dock manager there, is actually my wife's nephew. So we know them pretty well, and I think they do a lot of work here on the lake.
Just as an FYI, floating docks have to get registered through the harbor master. So it's a different process. That's why I asked.
And the difference being that the floating docks you don't have to remove them in the winter, is that correct?
No, I mean the ones that are free floating, not connected to land at all. So the ones that your kids go out and jump off of all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, or the little trampolines, those kinds of things, go to
Yes.
the harbor master.
Yeah.
All right, one question before, we move along with this. John, I just want to ask you, do you have any issue with, stormwater out in the front of your house?
Not that I'm aware of, but what do you mean by issues?
The catch basins out in front of your house, are they working appropriately or during storms on the
Oh,
street? Are you-
I have not seen anything. In fact, just before the winter, the highway department rebuilt the one closest to my driveway, call it Plan North here, but I haven't seen any issues. It's been a lot of rain here too.
Okay, all right, I'm asking because actually that particular, right at the end of your driveway, the culverts, excuse me, the catch basins were filled with silts and they were, Michelle, we went down, actually, wasn't it during 2 years ago or a year ago when we went and did
Earth Day, yep.
yeah, Earth Day. We noticed it and we had just gotten torrential rains and I was like, well, this is an issue. Okay, that's good.
I haven't noticed anything. I know the highway department came in with those digger things
Yeah,
and dug out in the fall
there's
time, and
different-
they found one of them needed to be rebuilt. So all of a sudden my driveway was blocked off, and they were working on that. So that's
Oh,
all
that's-
why I know.
That's good because I wanted to just check in and I was gonna recommend that we talk with Kenny on that because that was an issue a year ago. So I'm glad to hear that they've upgraded that. All right, so if there are no other questions on this, do we have any abutters with for public comment?
I don't think anybody's on the call, but I know the Zumpfies and James, the other people around me, all got the notices, and they all came over. What are you doing? And they says, no problem, whatever it is. So everybody seems to be friendly around here. I haven't heard any issues.
Good.
Yeah, I think the only issue is we're still waiting on a DEP number. That's the only issue.
Okay, so we necessarily can't close this out until we have a DEP number.
Yep.
All right, so.
I like that, Steve, no butters.
What, say that again?
I said no butters to argue with today.
Yeah, Steve.
I argue with DEP to get a file number. This has been, what, Mary, you canceled the last meeting, March 2nd, and today's the 15th, so there's 13 days, and I had it to you before, 2 weeks before the March 2nd meeting.
Yeah, they're really slow. You're just gonna have to bug them, I think, they've been behind.
They're working from home, Steve. and
Yeah.
They go into the office, I think, once a week, each one of them. And, Kim in the central office needs to connect with Denise a certain way. And, there's, if an analyst is looking at one and they got to connect with a higher up professional, it's pretty difficult right now for them. And they're processing things as fast as they can.
Lot 85 on Black Point,
Yeah.
we still haven't had a superseding order of conditions. When did we go to that meeting with DEP?
Yeah, that was in the fall. I would reach out to Denise about it. Denise heads to the Worcester office.
Yeah, I think someone else, wasn't it Gary who ended up doing
Gary
that one?
Romaine is handling
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
Yep, that's been a while.
But
So
anyway.
to us laymen here, not having this DEP number, what does this mean to me?
That
as far
means
as doing this work?
you can't move forward with any of your work until you have a DEP number, and your DEP number needs to be put up in front of your house. And that's a legal requirement.
John, it's a formality. That's all it is. Once we get the number, they look at the plan to make sure I submitted everything properly and they give us a DEP file number.
Yeah, I don't think they'll have any concerns with this project.
No.
Thank you.
But because there's no DEP number, we can't issue an order of conditions on this, so we have to continue it. So, all right. So with that, if there's no other questions, concerns, then what we can do is we're gonna just put you on the next meeting. Steve, I would recommend that you talk to central office. Continue to talk, tell them that you need to get going on your project. And that you need your DEP number. Reaching out to them consistently. I do know a wetland professional in the area that contacts them on a daily basis, sometimes 5 times a day. So,
I know who that is. Mary, did you check the DEP's website at all?
I did earlier when I did the review
all
for
right.
this, but that was like a week ago. So you might want to check.
it's Monday, I'll be honest with you, often Tuesday, Wednesday, that's when you see a lot of the numbers populate.
My son had a meeting 2 weeks ago in Rutland. He didn't have a DEP file number. They continued the hearing. The next day when he went into the office, he had the DEP number.
Yeah.
But anyway, when's the next meeting?
Well, look at this. We get to see you again, Steve. The season starts early for you. All right, so the next meeting is April 5th. And I need the motion from my commissioners to continue this to April 5th, 100
I'll make that motion.
side and
Second.
All right, Ms. Cirillo,
Yes.
Mr. Bach,
Yes.
Mr. Duto,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Dr. Jewel,
Yes.
Mr. Wigglesworth.
yes. All right, so John, great meeting you. Welcome to
Likewise.
Steve. Always,
Good meeting me.
always a pleasure. All right,
Thank
you
you very
guys.
much. Have a good
All right.
evening.
Hey, you too.
Stay safe, Steve.
Bye.
All right.
Bye-bye.
We're up to discussion items now.
Yes, how you doing? I've been waiting since 5:30. I talked to the office today.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? You're on next. You're actually not right now. There's one more person
Yeah.
before you.
Yeah,
Okay.
we
Oh,
need
okay,
to-
great, great. All right, thank you.
Yes, so, okay, well, we need to.
Yeah, no problem.
Pump
I
the
wait.
brakes, my friends. So, 6, Bates Grove Road, DEP number 323-1154, a minor modification. Do we have somebody here for 6 Bates Grove Road?
Hello, this is Michael Stelmack. Can you hear me?
Hey, Michael, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for hearing me tonight. Hi, everyone.
Great. So you're looking to modify your driveway?
Yeah, a condition for our, I might not use exactly the right language, but part of your requirements through the Conservation Commission was a permeable driveway.
Yep.
And we have gotten 2 bids for all the work that entails.
Yeah.
And we're very concerned about the cost of those. One bid is, depending on what final pavers we pick, is somewhere between $36,000 to $40,000. And the other one is between $40,000 and $46,000. And so we researched alternate options, and
Okay.
we found a much less expensive option involving a grid system with gravel. And then simply a gravel driveway is another much less expensive option. And then, as my neighbor so eloquently put it, why don't you just leave it dirt, leave it as it is. So a complicating factor is my son Matthew, who's 24 and handicapped and lives with us, and he has an automated wheelchair, a battery-operated wheelchair, which weighs about 300 pounds, and we can't leave it as it is. We can't have a gravel solution.
Absolutely.
The impermeable paver solution is just cost prohibitive based on, where we are. So we're just trying to come up with alternatives. So I called Mary. She was kind enough to get me on the agenda for tonight. And we're just looking to talk to you folks to try to see if, what our options are.
Okay.
One of the things that you could look at is if you go downtown, right next to the town library, they have a basically it's called a drivable lawn, which is the honeycomb. But instead of putting it filling it with rock. You put soil in and you put grass on it. But you can drive cars on it. It doesn't get damaged. You're not going to sink in.
But how does
And
it
it would
use-
be a very inexpensive solution.
But how does it deal with a wheelchair? I don't know if it would work well with a
Well,
wheelchair.
the wheels on the wheelchair are going to be going on the honeycomb cells.
Yeah. And
I'm
they'll
just not
take
sure.
up several thousand pounds because the reason that that's in there in front of the library is so that the fire trucks can get on there as an easement without it taking away from the aesthetic of downtown.
My concern would be the smaller wheels and the honeycomb.
Absolutely,
I
absolutely.
understand how it works with big wheels. I just don't know. You might have to do some research on if that's ADA compliant, if it's going to be workable.
Yeah, well, we're happy to look at that. Did I hear you correctly? It's in front of the library?
Yeah, it's the right-hand side as you're looking at it from the street. Just look down and you see that you can still see the cells, but very vaguely at this point.
Gotcha.
If you just go through the library, the library parking lot and then just drive right up on the lawn and right in front of the library, and you might be able to do a couple burnouts. And if they ask, you can just say, "Hey, I'm trying out the drivable lawn." The commission said,
You can actually just Google it and it brings up some nice pictures.
yeah, it actually does. Yeah, it's
Drivable lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what it is it sounds like you were talking earlier, Mike. It's like a hex cell.
Yeah.
It's basically a composite material that it just lays over the ground, and you can fill it with whatever you want to fill it with. But going back, rewinding a little bit here, my concern, like with Michelle, is what's appropriate for someone with a wheelchair. The question here is, I am trying to remember your particular project.
I have some pictures if
Yeah,
that.
can I just see the house? If I see the house, it'll all come back to me. Isn't your lot fairly flat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oops.
And
Here's the driveway.
Joey,
There you
Joey, if we can just finish like a little bit on the drivable lawn, because we keep calling it that. So
Yeah.
in this particular, at the library, what they did was put down some really good soil and planted grass. Eventually the grass grows up through this system and you mow straight over it, and it's like a lawn, but it stands up to car tires and that sort of thing much better than if you left the lawn.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I had been, talking to a number of people, engineers, about this, and one of the things they suggested, I just wanted to bring it up. I don't know if it's reasonable. Is I can't recall the term they use, but there are these kind of igloo water containment things that go into the ground, and the water can be channeled to those water containment things. Again, they look like big igloos, and they're underground, and the water just percolates down out of those containment units into the ground. Is that something that if we were to have perimeter drains with an asphalt driveway and drained into those units, is that an acceptable solution?
Yeah, if it's correctly sized, you can sit there and do it. The most well-known company that does those things is called Cultec. And
I would say
the
so.
chambers are not that expensive.
So my concern about that option is the level of the lot compared to the level of the water. Now there is of course a foundation for the garage there, and they dug a deep hole. I'm not sure. I think it's maybe 4 feet from grade for for the foundation for the garage. And you can see there in the picture you're showing, as it comes away from the lake, it slopes up quite a bit. So I guess maybe I should be asking an engineer if we explored that option, if that was feasible given the elevation of our lot relative to the water.
Yeah,
but
the
I'm happy
Cultec
to do that.
units are generally about 18 inches high.
Okay.
So they would give you a reasonable perk because you got looks like sandy soil. So it's going to drain through it at a reasonable rate.
And I'm sorry, what was the name of that company again? Could you spell that for me, please?
Cultec.
Okay, thank you. Cultec.
Caltech.
Yeah, there
so
are other
that's
companies
great.
that manufacture them, but
Yeah.
everybody uses Cultec as kind of the generic term.
Yeah, there's Caltech, there's ADS, which is Advanced Drainage Systems. There are other engineering companies that do those. Hydrotech, HydroWorks, Hydro International, all those guys do those. Filtrex does them. Those are just some of the companies. But you're going to want to talk to a contractor about installing that in, and you'd want to talk to probably the paving company, maybe used to doing a system like that. Because, the reason that, we gone with the pervious driveway here is because of paving all of this or most of this was a concern of a lot of runoff heading towards the lake, and it's flat. So it would just be like a sheet heading right off into the ground. Heading into the lake.
Understood. Yeah.
So getting that water into the ground would be best, how to get it in the ground. Given that there's, you need a specific, there's, an ADA requirement here. You want to make sure that whatever best fits you, we're flexible.
Appreciate that. So we'll do our research and come up with some alternatives. I'm guessing we'll be talking to you folks again. I appreciate your time.
All right. Well, you talk with Mary and run things by Mary, and she can,
I have a question for Mike before he goes.
Yeah.
You still there, Mike?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I'm just curious. Permeable pavers normally cost about between $10 and $30 a square foot. It doesn't look like your driveway is big enough to require the kind of numbers you were talking about. Was there anything special about your driveway that made the cost of permeable pavers so high?
The process they described was digging out probably maybe 12 to 16 inches down below grade and filling it with some sort of larger stone, and then putting maybe 6 inches or 4 inches on top of that with a kind of a finer stone, and then putting the pavers down. The cost of the pavers, it was 1,500 or so square feet. And the pavers, depending on which ones we selected, were just for the pavers, as I understood it, where it was $8K to maybe $11K, $8,000 to $11,000, and the rest was all the other materials and the labor. So we did get two estimates. We really had a hard time finding a third local estimate. It seems that we've got a local guy out of Webster. I probably shouldn't mention names, but a local guy at Webster has very good reputation, works with the paver supply folks over in Milford. That's who we've got the first one for. And then the second one was Premium Pavers, a Lexington company, and they're more toward Boston. So they're probably they are the high bidder of the two that we got. But, it was, again, 35 to 40 was the lower bid, and 40 to 45 rough numbers was the higher bid. Does that seem way blind to you?
I guess it's just because you have so much area you want to have paved. Yeah, because it's usually, like I said, it's usually $10 to $30 a square foot installed.
Oh, installed.
Installed.
So 1,500. Yeah. So 1,500. We're also what you're looking at now in the picture where the jet skis are. is a kind of a larger one-stall garage that goes right up to the 10-foot line on the side abutment.
Yeah.
And so there's a side driveway 10 feet along the side of the garage, and then the whole front area, which also is in front of the house, where, you know, as you can see, it's a smaller lot, we're a premium there. So anyway, it's about 1,500 square feet that we're talking about of pavable space.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot of square footage. Thank you for answering that for me.
Yep.
All right. Very good. All right. So if there's any questions, please let us know. Michael, and good luck with your research.
Yeah, very, very good. Thank you for your time tonight, folks.
All right. Thank you. Okay. So I'm assuming 69 South Shore Road is here.
Yes, it is. Yep.
All right. And who are we speaking with?
Sorry for interruption. I just didn't know if I'm on the agenda or not.
Well, you were jumping right in there.
I was trying. I've been here since 5:30.
Well, I'm glad that you were here, so you know exactly what conservation does.
Yeah, I know. Usually I like to meet you guys face to face, but it is what it is.
All right, so talk to me about your plans here that you.
All right, so pretty much what it is, it's just a rough drawing of what I'm planning to do, and there's few reasons why I want to do this. Reason number one is I hate, and I know you guys hate, building any kind of walls along the shoreline. Okay, I don't want to disturb any of the shoreline whatsoever.
Yeah.
So my idea, and what a lot of people do is they take the docks in and out constantly, you know, disturbing the shoreline, disturbing the vegetation around it, as well as the bottom of the lake.
Yeah.
So I seen a lot of structures like this when I'm, you know, riding around the lake. That is pretty much permit solution to the problem. So my idea is to run the I-beams across, and that will be about 15 feet out, and then putting concrete blocks and attaching I-beams into concrete blocks away from the water. So that's one reason why I want to do this. And the second reason, I have a father that is handicapped and he's got a hard time to move around. So even if I did 4 feet or 3 feet of decking, it's almost impossible for him to walk on it. So that's why I want to have a nice landing area where he can enjoy and move around safely on a deck.
So let's rewind here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at, all right, so your shoreline, this is what you want to do with your with a dock. Is this what you're looking to do?
That was the old one.
Okay.
So that's already existing. So I have that's already existing. That's already in the water that I want to take it all out and do it. So I don't have to keep putting in and out.
All right. This one here,
Mm-hmm.
this dock. This looks a bit different than what I was just looking at. And
Yeah, but because this is what I have right now.
Was this dock approved by the state?
Yes.
You have a license for this dock?
Yes, we send a check. We send a we send a check.
And
was cashed.
This is not the same dock design that I was just looking at.
Yes, it is. Can you go back to it, please?
Yeah, there's a space in the middle.
Yeah, that's exactly same thing. I have two 3-foot sections coming out, and there's a landing in the middle.
Okay.
So it's exactly same thing.
All right. Do we have a copy of your license on file with?
You should. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I don't know. I mean, we paid.
Mary, do we have a copy of the license on file?
Miss Mary.
Mary?
She ran away.
So,
Mary, please come back.
Yep. You see that opening? Right over here?
There. All right, Mary, do we have a copy of this on file?
As far, I'm not sure that we do. We had the application, but I'm
All
not
right.
sure that we have the actual, whether they actually issued it. Did you get it recorded?
As far as I know, I mean, they cashed the check, so I assume.
That doesn't mean that they've approved it.
I'll look it up.
Okay, all right, so
So,
I'm gonna research that myself as well.
Yeah. well, first off, we need to make sure that we've got an approved dock here, and if you're modifying the dock, then we need to go from there.
Okay,
So now, what is the plan for modifying this dock? Because you jumped right into, I want to put I-beams and all sorts of stuff.
Mhm.
You're like, I need to see a design in front of me, and all I saw was just, it
Well,
looked,
pretty much, this is, I mean, that's my drawings, so.
so
if-
explain to me, hold on.
Mhm.
Explain to me. All right, so this is where you can go out. This is it. I'm getting my pointer.
Yes, yep, that's it.
Hold on. All right, so what is this? Is that to go out? To go out onto the dock right here?
Yes, yep, that's
All right,
it.
so this line right here, this is the shoreline.
Yes.
All right, so
Sorry.
now where does this dock start? Right here, out here? Where is the?
Oh,
I'm
so
not,
if you go down to the lake, and right here, actually, so you have 15, so that's the entryway where you pointed right now. And then the dock actually starts right over here in the corner. That's it, you got it right here.
so you're looking to cover up the entire shoreline with a dock right here?
Not entire,
How much frontage do you have?
57.
And how big is that dock?
So that'll be to 35 by 15.
So you have to be at 25 feet off your neighbors.
So if I'm 25 and 25, that's 50, so I got only 7 feet.
Yep.
Yep.
Now, 25 from my neighbors, because there's nobody that is 25 from the neighbor anywhere.
If you look at,
Is that a law or just a suggestion?
that is a
The
law.
law says 25, but we have the opportunity to make adjustments depending on needs.
Hmm.
But I'm just trying to understand. So say you made it a more narrow platform,
Hmm.
then you said you have I-beams going from there? That was where I got a little confused.
Yeah, so pretty much my idea was, so nothing touches the water. It's just
Yeah.
hanging over the water, so I don't have to ever worry about anything freezing or, having anything taken out of the water. It will be
I have-
something that will be,
I have a
Perfect.
neighbor that has steel girders, it looks like, coming out of something on the land. Is that kind of what you're imagining? Like a
Yes,
steel
yes.
girder going out and then making a platform that would be your dock on
yes,
top
that
of
is
the
correct.
steel
Yep,
girder.
yeah.
Yep. I understand.
So, I mean, like I said, that idea came, I mean, I didn't come up with that idea myself. When we were taking right around the lake, I
Yep.
seen a couple docks like this, so that's how, that idea came about. And I said, that's really great idea for not to take it out and in docks every year
But-
and destroying everything around it.
Yep. But you still have specific rules for chapter 91 that you're supposed to follow.
Okay, so I didn't know that. So
Yeah.
when you're saying 25 feet from the neighbor, since
Yeah.
my property's 57, so my dock is only allowed to be 7 feet?
Your dock is only supposed to be 4 feet wide for a chapter 91.
Okay, so if I want to do something like this, how I go about that?
You would have to go out at 4 feet wide is as wide as you can go. So the docks that you see that are over 4 feet wide, they're actually not legal under chapter 91 because your dock is supposed to be a width of 4 feet.
Okay,
Okay.
so I still,
You might want to look closer at the regulations and see if you can come up with some way. So I understand the I-beam activity.
Mhm.
you could also, a number of people have also done those floating docks. So the posts go into the ground, but the docks float up and down depending on the
Yeah,
water.
I mean, I was thinking about that, but because of the situation with my father, it's
Yeah, it
really
won't
not
work.
ideal to have the
No.
docks flowing, you
No.
know, and moving
Yeah.
coast.
Anybody who's unsteady on their feet would be in danger on that kind
Yeah.
of dock.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
we
that's why I, you know, I mean, that option would be cheaper for me. It's just not an option really, for the safety reasons for, in my situation, you know?
Yeah, you don't want to lose your dad. Let's not.
Oh,
throw him
certainly
over.
don't.
So let me ask this. So what is this here and this here?
So that would be the concrete blocks. I mean, if you're looking at my little,
Okay.
you know, I did the best I could, but at number 2, you have concrete blocks, and that's kind of resemblance that, you know what I mean? So
So were you gonna pour like a concrete pad to hold these I-beams?
that's what I was planning. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You're
pretty
still-
much, go ahead.
How far back from, and we need to know what the mean high water mark here is.
That's why, you know, like I said, I was trying to get on a meeting to get your perspective on it. That's one. And what I'm allowed to do, what I'm not allowed to do, and you know, what your suggestions are. I mean, this is just a rough schedule for what I'm hoping to get.
The other option that I've noticed more neighbors are taking advantage of is using a bubbler. So they put in a standard dock, and then in the winter, put in a bubbler. I don't know what it looks like, but it
I
keeps
know what you're
the
talking about.
area around the dock from freezing.
Yeah, it's basically an aerator. It puts oxygen into the water and it's.
Yeah. I seen those actually in New Hampshire. A lot of people don't take out the docks and they keep it at.
Right.
Yeah.
So the same thing would be true. You could leave the dock in without it being trashed by the freeze.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could still follow standard chapter 91 parts and pieces.
So how am I gonna do, how is the landing is gonna come to the place when I have to be 25 feet away, I mean 20 feet away or 25 feet away from the neighbors?
Yeah, that's the hard part, because the rule is pretty straightforward that it's gotta be 4 feet. 4
Mhm.
feet wide is what your dock is supposed to be.
Mhm. So you're telling me that 95% of docks are not legal on the Webster Lake?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
They're not permitted yet.
Mhm.
Them are not permitted yet.
Okay, because I was going based on what I'm seeing.
Yeah. And
You
it's
know,
very
like-
different from what the rules are.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So what would be a solution for me? What do you guys would recommend? I mean,
I mean, we can make recommendations, but I have to tell you, in accordance with time and, you know, I mean, we can assist you, but it's best if you come to us with a plan that conforms better to what actual regulations are.
Mhm.
Like what Michelle said, like you need to know what you're working with, and you need to go to the chapter 91 site and you need to look at the what they call the FAQs,
Mhm.
and it will tell you all of how far should I be back from my neighbor's property line? How far can I extend out? How big can it be? What's my max square footage? You know, how can I construct it?
So as far as the square footage.
You were on earlier,
Mhm.
you saw 100 Lakeside Ave, and I mean, yeah, a professional engineer in town did that chapter 91 license.
Yep.
You saw 3 different models of how that's going to be anchored under the ground.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
So with what you're proposing here, I'm a little bit, you know, I'm sort of a little bit confused with the drawing. I didn't know which side was the lake, which side was not. Like,
I mean, if you go down, you're gonna see I put 69 South Shore Road. So obviously that will be the other way. So that will be the street. Okay.
yeah, but
And that will be the
to
lake.
me, I look at maps quite a bit all day long, and to me, this here looks like underneath underneath the water. This looks like under the water, and this looks like something that's.
I mean, listen, I did the best I could, okay? So, you know, I'm not an engineer.
We need some labels. We need.
I spent half of Sunday to try to figure out all of it, so you gotta give me some kind of credit.
I'll
But
give
so
you a hand.
So when we're talking about 25-foot rule, and this is just a question, right? So when you're looking at a map, and I don't know how you guys turn around over here, but if you're looking at a map, that's a Kildare Island Club right away, right? So they do have a dock over there, a boat dock.
Yep.
Okay, that property, that right away is only 10 feet.
And that's where.
You see what I'm saying?
And here's the kicker on that one for you.
Mm-hmm.
Dock predates 1984, so it's grandfathered under the regulations.
Okay, all right. You
So
probably-
that's how they necessarily can get away with it.
Yeah, so that's just like I said. I mean,
Plus, they don't have the frontage, so they need to put it in the middle.
I see. Okay.
All
All
right. There are some exceptions to the rule.
Mm-hmm. Can I be one of them?
But you
Not when you
also
have-
have to remember that you're asking us for permission to put giant cement blocks very close to a wetland.
Which is wrong, which is bad.
Yeah.
Well, what's worse?
You also just don't
putting
ask
wall?
us to break the law.
I mean, I'm trying to. My idea was also do aluminum structure, like I said, and I was looking at the bubbles and everything else. But I thought, you know, going that way, instead of building a giant walls like a lot of people do, which I don't like, that would be a simple, nicer solution. This way I can have all the vegetation around the dock and it looks all natural without, moving things around. And I mean, I see when people just pulling the docks, ripping everything out of the water. I think that would, in my opinion, that would be just a better solution. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that's how I came out with that idea.
Yeah. Well, there are ways, I mean, and it is, it costs money, but there are ways of anchoring these things to what is considered under the regulations and called land underwater.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where, when you get into the permitting piece of it, that's what you're asking for, is to attach a dock over the state property, which is the lake, to land, and have access over what they call land underwater.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's what, when you're doing this 91 permit, that's what you're asking for. You're asking the state, can I rent this spot
Mm-hmm.
off of my property to get access to the water?
Okay, so
back to this, you currently have this.
No chapter 91 at the registry of deeds.
we don't.
No, I don't see it, so it didn't get registered.
So I wonder where my check went.
Well, they'll still cash your
Your
check.
responsibility. to-
That's it.
Yeah, it's not their responsibility to put it at the registry of deeds.
So,
That's
okay.
the homeowners.
So you had to have gotten a letter from them that said we approve or deny.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to, if you've got that letter, you need to file that with the registry of deeds in Worcester.
Mm-hmm.
That's a legal part that
Oh, okay.
you're not compliant right now.
There's a time limit for when you can file. I don't know what it is, but you should check, because after a certain time, it's no longer valid.
Mhm. So I'm gonna give him a call tomorrow and try to figure
I
out.
would give them a call, and we need to be attached onto that and let us know
Okay.
what's going on with it. And I'll be honest with you, it seems like we're gonna have to go through the chapter 91 process again, because you're wanting to do this.
Mhm.
And, unfortunately, that fee goes to the state, so we can't help you out with that piece.
So just so I can understand this correctly. So right now I need to, let's say I don't have it. So do I need to apply for license or permit?
It's a license. That's what it is.
License.
permitting, it's a permitting license.
permanent license, and that's for water dependent, right?
Yes, that says that the state said that you can have that. Right now, we have to tell you, you have to take that out.
But you want the simplified one.
Simplify. Okay, let me
Yeah.
get on that tomorrow. I will get on that tomorrow.
But you need to, before you do anything, you have to have, like, you need to come before us and we need to also say, we approve and bless what you're doing. So that
Okay.
when it goes, when your application goes off to the state, they know that Concom already said, you know what? Given, the frontage and where this is, it doesn't prohibit navigation of others.
Mhm.
It's far enough back on both sides, and it's an appropriate use of water frontage. So that is the big thing with the it's almost a dual filing. You come
Yeah,
before
yeah.
us and you submit it to the state, but I wouldn't submit anything to the state until you're
Talk to you guys.
got a concept, a really good conceptualized model of exactly what you're doing.
Mhm.
And we know what you're doing here.
All right, so what will be your solution to my problem?
What I would do have you been to Lakeside Marine to talk to them about how to secure?
I'm talking about size, strictly about size.
I'm talking about design.
Mhm. So no, I didn't talk to anybody.
We can figure out from the sides. We just told you, like,
Okay,
between 15 and 25 feet on both sides.
okay,
That's how you need to figure this thing in.
okay.
As
So
far as
15
it's being
okay.
anchored to the ground so that it's stable for your family.
Mhm.
That and design of what it's going to be, that is something that you need to figure out. And I would, the best people to talk to about how to get that anchored to the ground, to the land under the water, are the people that do this professionally, and they're over at Lakeside.
So you're saying that my idea with the cement blocks and the I-beams are not really good?
No, because what you're doing is you're actually disturbing a bordering vegetated wetland, which is your shoreline. Because you're pouring concrete at the shoreline, so you're causing impervious, you're causing an impervious area right near the shoreline.
Mhm. But what about if, and I'm asking the questions here. People building walls and doing patios and doing all kind of stuff right next to the water. So how is that different from what I'm trying to do?
That's different because they need a permit just like you would. But what you're doing is you're trying to, basically what you're doing is you're trying to make something hover above the water. Anything that goes out over the water, you obviously need this permit for.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. I mean, I understand that I need to go to permitting and everything else.
But you also need to, what you're doing is you're going to end up digging up just beyond the shoreline. And if you're running an I-beam through the shoreline, aren't you disturbing the shoreline?
Yeah, so like I was explaining to Mary, so I want to move back from the shoreline as much as, so it will be probably 15 feet back that I will use the machine, and then everything else for the I-beams will be hand dug. So there will be no machines whatsoever going to the shoreline. Because I don't need to go that deep all the way down to the water level. You know what I mean? So whatever I do would be 15 feet, 15 feet away from the shoreline, and everything else by the water, it would be hand dug.
So you're looking at taking a machine 15 feet from the shoreline here.
Yes.
And you're looking to dig all this up.
And not all of it. I mean, probably section.
But you're looking at, like, I'm seeing what, 5 or 6. You're looking at putting I-beams along here.
Yep.
You're creating more disturbance than what is necessary. In my opinion, I don't know about anyone else. And if you do that, you're going to have to file an NOI.
What's that?
you're gonna have to do a filing because you're disturbing this area here, and we condition the project. So you're not.
Well, I would point out that what he's attempting to do is
Fred, what was that?
I'm losing you guys.
Fred?
I wonder if Fred was saying that because it's kind of sloping down here, you'd have to dig pretty far
Okay,
down to get those I-beams flat.
I'd point out that you would really need,
Oh, Fred.
Fred, come back.
Come back to us. Ground control to Major Tom.
Brett, if we keep losing your connection, why don't you type what you're trying to say?
Look at you, Hayden, always so sensible,
Geez, where's Hayden been all night?
right? Always with the
Quietly listening and observing.
always so sensible.
That's always dangerous.
Just another point of fact, there is an open order that never got a certificate of compliance on this property.
Which
I'm
is?
like the queen of the registry of deeds.
What is it?
You had a project and I don't think you ever got a certificate of compliance for it.
Oh, okay.
That's just another piece of the puzzle.
Oh, boy.
Mary, we lost you now.
so can you hear me now?
There's Fred. There's.
Right.
Let's hear our resident.
Anyway, I'm getting an unstable internet connection.
Well, make it stable, Fred.
Stand up.
I need a stable genius to do
All right,
that.
he's stable now. Fred, go ahead.
Okay. With what you're trying to do, it's called a cantilever. And there are limitations as to how far out you can actually build one. And I think you can build one long enough without to actually get your boat to be able to dock up to it. You're probably only going to be able to go out 6 or 8 feet before the leverage just falls apart. And if you want to get anything longer than that, I would strongly recommend that you have a civil engineer go out and do the calculations to figure it out.
Yeah, so that was my next step, and we lost you again.
All right, so you heard what Fred said, right?
Yeah, so that was my next step. I mean, obviously, I'm not doing this on the what I think is I need to figure out what kind of I-beam I need to have X amount of load per foot, and how much counterweight I need in the back. So that was not something that I'm going to put, I-beam that I found somewhere laying around and just put a piece of cement and hope it's going to hold.
But,
you know?
but here's the thing. What I was getting at earlier is that now you've tripped the fact that you need to do an NOI filing. Of just the RDA process with the Chapter 91, you'd have to be involved in a more involved permitting. When this really could be a more simplified project, you're making it more difficult for yourself. And if I remember correctly, I've said that to you about 100 times when it came to your property. You're making things difficult for yourself.
But you also said that my property was one of the best properties out there.
Oh, did I?
Green area, you did.
I don't know. I've seen it at its worst, and maybe it's much better. Maybe
Oh, it's a lot better.
Well, looking at the pictures, it does look much better, and I'm glad that you're able to enjoy it now. But the thing is we need to do things correctly, and we want you to be able to do something correctly. And more so, the concern was earlier that you don't want anyone to fall, and particularly someone that is either wheelchair bound or has a disability. So, and that is why the access to the actual dock is 4 feet wide, so that people with ADA can get out onto these things. But that's why I was sort of pushing you towards, talk to, you know, the folks over at Lake Marine about options for how to anchor this to the floor of the water, the land under the water.
So you'll be guys, you'll be,
There are things that you can just sort of like, you know, you kind of, it drills right in.
bad, yeah.
And you attach it to it. And it's very, I mean, it's almost next to no movement at all.
Do you have to take that off and during the winter time or no?
No, you can have it so you can take it off, but you just put in, then you need to just put in a bubbler. Have you put in electricity down there?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so you've put in electricity down there. So you would just need to have a bubbler around it and just make sure that when we get a good freeze in ice forms, that it's the aeration around it. You might need one, you might need two, depending upon, it looks like you want that same configuration.
Yes, yeah.
Two. Drop it in the water and away you go.
All right.
So it seems like your first step is to get your kind of configuration right. Figure out your dock configuration so that it complies with Chapter 91, and then you can work on how it's going to be anchored or whatever.
But I mean, I will tell you that, you know, as Fred had mentioned, that is called a cantilever, and cantilevers they're anchored back here and they sort of just float over the water. The state frowns upon those, and I don't know if they would approve it.
That is what, excuse me?
The state tends to frown upon those because of safety. And like Fred said, you won't be able to put it out very far enough. And the idea of that is you're also putting, you know, you're taking, you know, it seems to me like you want to have like almost like a big platform that just goes right out over the water and everyone enjoys it, and you can't necessarily do that. Because
I mean, it's not so much, I mean, I'm not looking for, you know, having a, like the guy previously said, you know, put a chair and a lunch on that platform. It was more for maneuver and not to be restricted to that 4 feet, just because if I have to turn a wheelchair or something like that around, 4 feet, it's really not much. You know, especially where you got to turn things around. So that was my biggest thing, you know, so I want something that I can safely have my father on it without worry of him turning a wheel. Yeah, I mean, you know what I'm talking about. 4 feet is not really a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I totally understand that.
You know, and so that was my idea of that so much, you know, the platform. So I don't have to fish him out.
Well, that's not good. We don't want to hear about that. That'd be bad. You know, but I think you need to kind of explore options a bit more. And you know, this I-beam with concrete, and you're creating too much of a project for yourself that doesn't need to be. When all is said and done, I mean, it's almost like you could just pay someone to come in and anchor your dock to the floor of the lake, and it will be secure. So, but I would talk to some professionals, like, you know, I mean, I would recommend going over to the Lake Marine.
Yeah, let me talk to them. Let me
Talk
see.
to them and see, and you know, maybe they have a specialist that they work with. Obviously, there are engineers around. There was an engineer on earlier, and you know, maybe the price is reasonable for him to do a design for you, and you can do the filing yourself, but it's designed correctly.
So I understand everything 100%, and I don't want to take any more of your time. So the idea that I came out with, it's still doable if I keep it at 15 feet away from the neighbor, 15 to 20, you said. and I have the engineer stamp for the I-beams and everything else. So that's one option. Second option is to put the dock in the water, secure 100% and have a bubbler going.
That is the option that I thoroughly recommend.
Mhm.
Not this cantilever I-beam part, because then we're getting into, there's more disturbance than what needs to be. And like Fred said, you're only gonna be able to go out so far. And I don't know, I don't even know about whether, those are even permittable under 91.
Let me, yeah, I'm gonna work on that. I'm gonna see if I can call the state and find out what's.
Yeah, call the Chapter 91 office.
Yep.
It's out of Boston.
Mhm.
People are really great to work with, and let them know I sent a check, you cashed it, and what happened with my permit.
Okay,
If you've got that permit, you need to record it with the Registry of Deeds in Worcester. That is your
I'll
job.
work on that tomorrow for sure.
And you need to give Mary a copy of that for filing.
Now she's in the building department office, so I'm gonna see her a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think the other thing wrong with that plan is you can't have that 15-foot wide platform. So that has to go. It has to be 4 foot wide. You can have different forks coming off of it, but it can't have that big 15-foot wide. So.
Okay,
And then also,
you guys really put a dent on my night tonight.
I'm sorry about that.
To the drawing board here.
We're glad that you decided to rock it out with us this evening. Sorry to kind of, put out your fire, but we want to make sure that things are done.
I understand. That's why I'm here, and I'm,
Safely.
before I start doing anything else, I want to talk to you. I want to, that was more of a information meeting than anything else.
I can't thank you enough for coming to us, because of course in the past we've had, there's been communication.
It wasn't me. It was the other guy. Remember that.
Pointing no fingers.
With that, yes, with that property, we've had communication
Yeah.
disruption. But we need to find out what that other permit is and deal with that too, Mary.
Okay. All right. Let me work on that, and we figure it out.
All right, contact us and let us know, and we can give advice and whatnot, but I would seek out a professional, really.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Enjoy your evening.
Take
Yeah.
care.
You come up with anything, call me.
Sounds good.
All right. Bye now.
All right, bye. All right, so
It could be done.
I don't know about cantilever.
Well, you can, on houses, if you're doing lumber, you get about 3 feet. And that's tying off your main floor joist, which is 10 to 12 inches. So trying to do a 15-foot wide dock on a cantilever, I think you could build a new house far cheaper.
Well, we'll definitely see what what comes of it, and I mean, I hope that we can, obviously assist in the way that we can. But I just, this will be interesting to look in the regs and see if there is something said about something like that.
Well, cantilevered structures are mentioned in Chapter 91, and they're basically
Yeah.
treated as dock.
They are, but I think it goes back to houseboat days, which you don't find houseboats anymore. Anyway, all right. So next item, adopting our tree removal policy.
We're gonna have to skip that because I didn't get a chance to fix the final things.
Okay. So let's get into your agent report, Mary.
All right, I think the only thing that's really probably worth sharing is this is where the porta potty is gonna go.
Yay!
Yay!
Ooh, it's a gold star moment.
Yes.
That is.
The other things I talked about we already did that. It's just, there's an administrative approval. And then this is the ball field. They've started the swale.
Wow,
So,
did they?
Yeah,
Mary, I had a question about that. I looked
Yeah.
at it and you said, well, they did the work without getting a permit. And then when you mentioned erosion protection, somebody told you they didn't know that was on the plan. Well, who was doing this? They didn't even bother to look at the plan?
well, remember, this was I don't know, the plans were very bad. If you remember, this was the playground, and so we had closed the hearing. They never got a DEP number because, I don't know, the plans are so bad or they were backed up. I finally called DEP about it and we figured it out. They got their number, but in the meantime, they thought they were good and they were already building. So they started it and didn't know about the swale because they didn't have the order of conditions, which said there's a swale.
Who's the contractor?
I have his card at work. I liked them. They were very good. Carol likes them. He went immediately, fixed it. They've been really great to work with. They put in, in order to make the ball field work, they ended up putting in, I think it originally said 4 inches. They put in at least 6 inches of loam. They brought in extra dirt. They scarified it. So from talking with them, I felt good about it, but it just was unfortunate that there was miscommunication. And they've put the boulders up. This is showing the fence. I forgot to check. I don't know whether that fence was supposed to have 6 inches, and I didn't check on that.
Okay.
And this is near the shore. They did do nice erosion controls along the shore. Just the ones in the field here just didn't go far enough.
Okay.
So, and as you can see, are buried in snow.
Looked like one of them had been driven over, the picture before that.
Oh, yeah.
That is part of the reason why you do the silt fence.
Fence. Yep. Yeah, and actually what didn't make it into the agent report, which I should have, is we got a call out by the sewer guys that there were people in the wetland, the one that has the fill in it, like lopping branches. And Ted and I went out there to talk to them. They had a pit bull. And it was a little kind of, and the one guy who Ted thought might have been a little disabled had his loppers hidden under his jacket. And the other guy we didn't talk to because he was over next to the pit bull, but I assume they left. We asked the sewer people to kind of watch and they took a picture of their license plate. So it was a little odd, but.
Why were they cutting?
I have no idea. I mean, the guy basically, the person we talked to kind of denied it. He didn't really, but as Ted said, he seemed like he was a little disabled. So maybe he was too scared or didn't understand. And we didn't follow up to talk to the other person.
Where's the body?
That was definitely.
That's a little strange.
Goodness, you didn't go alone. Oh my
I know,
God.
but at first I thought about going alone and I'm like, forget it. I'm bringing someone.
Yeah. Hey, you, Mr. Sewer Man, come on.
Right? I'll lend you my pug next time.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
That was that.
Anyway, okay.
That's pretty much it though.
Okay. Well, in the last minute, the open space committee meeting yesterday went really good. We did it via Zoom. The Webster Dudley French River connection is going to be dissolving. They are the ones that monitor the Perryville Trace trail that goes along the river. So if you go down Perryville Road, which is off of Upper School Street, at the bottom of that, you'll see railroad tracks. There's a little parking lot there and there's a trail, and that has been monitored and taken care of and stewarded pretty much by the French River Connection folks. A gentleman named Ed Bazinet is part of that, and I can't think of the other gentleman's name. But the Open Space Committee will more than likely, we're going to talk with Mr. Craver, who currently lives in the Perryville mansion that is near there. It's all family, it's all old family property. Mr. Craver still owns the property, but has put it in the care and custody of this Webster, the French River Connection rather, and they've done a really good job with maintaining it. There's been a lot of trash being thrown down there. There's been the typical stuff of an off the beaten path trail being done down there, illegal activities and spray painting of stones and trees and benches. There's some benches down there, but we're going to meet up with Mark Mandeville, who was on the call last time, and Rianne, his fiance, as well as hopefully Mr. Craver can go. But Ed Bazinet and the other gentlemen that have been in charge of this trail, and talk about the commission, or rather the subcommittee, the open space subcommittee, looking to take over the stewardship of that trail, because they're getting too old to take care of it. So it would be a nice kind of adoption for us to maintain a current property that's got some recreational activity on it, which is nice. It's a very nice area. Last time they went on it last spring, they saw otters in the river. Very excited. I hope to see otters. So anyway, so there's that. We are also looking to prioritize looking at the conservation restriction lands that we are currently under conservation in town possession, and tour them, document what we see on them, make sure there's no encroachment, and kind of getting sort of cataloging what our properties are, and how we may be able to move forward possibly with a grant and possibly a stewardship committee to maybe begin doing some light trail work on some of these properties if it's possible under the CR. It was nice. We had a really good conversation going. Like any beginning of a committee meeting, you kind of get to know each other, and then suddenly it's all these ideas flying all around, and big hopes and dreams, and you got to kind of narrow it down. So we've got those things going on. We're not biting off too much at first. So I just wanted to update everyone on that. We're all meeting. Robin, myself, and Michelle will be meeting on Sunday at 11 at this trail. If anyone wants to join, we're just doing a walk. We're not really talking business or anything like that, but doing a walk and hearing the history of the trail, and kind of getting a sense of where the two gentlemen that run the trail right now, what their idea of thoughts is, if they still want to be involved and just in the background, or if they want to just give it to Open Space Committee.
Where exactly is this trail, Joey?
If you go to the bottom of Perryville Road, there's the railroad tracks right before the river where the waterfall is.
By the bridge, right?
Right by the bridge, before the bridge on the right side, across from the last building of the mill.
It goes up between the river and those houses up there.
Yes, yeah, it's right. It runs right along the tracks and right along the river. It's actually a nice walk. But if you go over the river, past the waterfall, there's a road that used to take you to the actual mansion. It was the original entrance for the mansion. And that will bring you down to another factory at the end of that road. And that's in Dudley. So one half of this area is Dudley on one side of the river, and the half that we have is Webster. So it's good. It's nice. Perhaps maybe at some point this could be a connector to the rest of the Riverwalk that's way down. But that would be that'd be quite a haul, but it's doable. So, but somehow this all connects in as part of the Quinnebog River Rail Trail. There's somewhere a connector somewhere. And it's actually pretty interesting. So get some other kind of recreation going in town, rather than, you know, it's either at the lake or at the river. Down, you know, the other river walk. This is something that's, you know, you're in the woods, you're along the river. It is quiet, it's nice. It actually, somewhere at the end of it is right before it borders the water not water treatment plant, the sewer plant, Dan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll lead right to the sewer plant.
It will, yeah. So I don't know if there's a possibility of eventually running the trail around it to what would be Hill Street. But we could see. I mean, so that's what's going on with that. And with that, I think if there's any other items, speak now. Otherwise, I think we can adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Wow. That's about
I have
10.
a dog that's been begging
I'll
to go out
second.
for the past hour and a half.
Boy.
Oh, all right. So,
I'll second.
all right. Wow, Fred, geez. Where are these people coming from? All right, so all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye, all right.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody.
Happy St. Patrick's Day, guys. Thanks
Good
again.
night.
Happy Pi Day, a day late.
Oh. Today is Pi Day.
No, yesterday was Pi Day.
Today's 3/15. Today's Pi Day.
3.14159.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, 3.145. Whatever.
Yeah.
And at 1:59, it was the most Pi moment.
All right. Have a great evening, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.